2 last week.
I gave it like a 7, like about a 7. I think a 7.
All right.
I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't have this aftertaste.
No, there was definitely a distinct aftertaste.
So Sharif, myself, so Sharif and I are at 7s. Neil's at an 8. Yeah. Dara and Think of Joe are like at 5s, maybe lower than that. But anyways, that's a little bit of talk about what's for lunch.
Yeah,
right there, and the rating system. I realized much like, and thank you for being the head of controversy on the stock picking game. But much like that, we need to clarify, rules ahead of rating food, rating stocks, and all we go as well. But were there some numbers there at 11 o'clock?
No, USO did have some strong volume spikes. So I was wondering what was happening in terms of news. But I think I pulled up my X account here, and I'm just looking at maybe someone was saying that it's unlikely that any security will be achieved in the Strait of Hormuz amid the fires and I think that's a post by someone named Ali Larijani. So I don't know, maybe that's why we got some movement. We also had some news saying the G7 leaders reject the SPR release plan, but stand ready after initial jawbone efforts fade. I don't know if that was what it was, but anyways, USO got some decent volume there, a little bit of a push back into 120s, but nothing near the magnitude of the bid that we got here at 10:05 with that push from 118s all the way to 124s there. And since then, it just seems like sellers have very much been in charge. HIMS kind of coming right back in, so I did keep this pretty tight here, going back in at 21. But I do want to reiterate that again, more to myself than anyone else. Sellers have been at the anchored VWAP so far today. So I'm potentially, being patient just means that seeing what's happening, observe what's happening. Okay, sellers off the open, sellers at anchored, maybe sellers a little bit underneath that VWAP. So maybe getting involved with the same participants is definitely increasing probabilities for me in terms of the trade working out. So maybe waiting for this anchored VWAP might be the next trade for me here on the day. But
it's very, very sensitive timing issue also with Joe.
Yeah.
Joe is very, very sensitive about the caterers. He's very sensitive
about pie.
About pie.
Yeah.
Let's not talk. A lot of people in the chat saying this man doesn't even eat pie. Very hard to trust him. That's what Neil says. I disagree with that statement. I think if he doesn't want to have pie, that's his choice. That
what about pizza pie?
Pizza pie? He has pizza pie. He definitely has pizza pie. I think that's for sure. All right, Obi, thank you very much for the show. Yes. He's back at 2 p.m., as am I. Off to the flagship. It's the midday with Joe and Sharif. But for now, over to Adara. Ciao.
Hey, guys, I just want to let you know, I am seeing apparently President Trump speaking about Iran to the Washington Post. He said he's not happy with the choice of the new Supreme Leader, who is, of course, the son of the prior Supreme Leader. And he said there's not going to be an Iran ground mission right now. Furthermore, this is kind of more about, I guess, in general, just the AI space. But Anthropic apparently suing the U.S. government after being designated as a supply chain risk for refusing to remove the guardrails. Apparently, this lawsuit has now been filed, or at least that's what I am seeing here right now on X. We also got the New York Fed inflation expectation data that I did mention earlier, came out at 11 a.m. Some commentary is really what you get from this number. They said that expectations about the future financial situation were not changed in February. So it sounds like people in February versus January feel the same about their financial situation. Apparently, inflation expectations did come to 3% versus 3.1% prior. So slight decline in the one-year inflation expectations. Not a bad look here. Back to you.
That time. Boom! Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. Welcome to the Midday Show. That's your boy Joey Options. I'm Sharif, and it is a day right now in these here markets. All right, let's say hello to everybody. We're a little bit late, but that is fine. What's up? What's up? I Grow Fighting. Everybody catch it. That was a good main event there on UFC. I domination by Charlie. That was domination.
Pure domination by our boy Charles.
That was crazy.
But I thought the overall card was boring.
I didn't see the whole card. I just chimed in there for the last event. Let's say hello, though, everybody, though. Anurag, we got Juan, we got Melinda, Los Polos, MF Dangerous, Bill, Yahardi, Mick, we got Mike, Pizza Pie, I Grow Fighting, I mentioned that one. Durant, Gordon, we got Dion, Super no, Dean Allen, Jody, we got Bash, Rainbows in the house as well, Rich Buddy and Omar, we got Mr. Leahy, how about Mickey J, Overthinking, Barry, shout out to Think Organic Studio, poor Robin Hood in the house, Rainmaker joining us as well as Pizza Gang, Luis Valencia, we got Dino and Buffalo Soldier, a whole bunch of new names, a whole bunch of old names, and we love y'all for joining us for the new, the old. I am Sharif, that is Joey, that was the Katina Man, and that was Obi, and now you've got the Midday Boys, and there's a whole lot moving. Joey, show them what you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll tell you this to start things off though, Sharif. I was on Polymarket this morning looking to see what the odds were for you wearing a T-shirt today.
Seriously?
No.
What the hell? I was like, what's happening? I'm really tired right now.
Yeah, I knew it was guaranteed, right? I'm like 15 degrees, 1000% this guy's wearing
Bro, hold on. In the order condescendi of exposed, clothing, this is like a hard 7 right now. Wait until you see some of the polos I got ready for the summer, my boy.
What's the temp? Your tarp off outside. All right.
Temp tarp off, 25 and up. 25 and up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
25 and up, we're good to go. Celsius, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. All right, guys, let's get into what we were looking at here this morning. Definitely a slower start, but we're in something right now. It seems to be cooking up for us, and we're going to be patient and wait to hit the target. We're pretty close, as we talked about. We'll get into it momentarily. Qs. IBIT, HIMS, USO. USO starting to break down, market move up. Good stuff here, right? Okay, cool. So now we're moving forward. We're going to take a look at what we got going on here with Tesla. A nice bottoming signal here on the 5-minute candle. We go long on the pullback, and then now on TSLL, we're going to wait for 60s. All right, that's going to be my 3-to-1. I'm in at 28. We were going to give it to 18s, right? And then we're going to wait for that 3-to-1 target. We're almost there. Been sitting in this trade for quite some time, 10:30 to be exact. Now, as for my slower start, I can slow things down a little bit here. I heard what Katina Man was saying, and I agreed. So we took 3 attempts. We struck out at the plate here on the TQQQs, all with the attempts to the short side. Glad that I got out really early here for that squeeze. Otherwise, that would have been a bad time. All right, that's not exactly what we want to be a part of. It breaks through VWAP. You see the volume really start to uptick. We got to get out of dodge. So we start 0 for 3 there, and then we go over to IBIT, and I actually just was in the wrong direction on this one. I made a mistake. I went to go for the break down, but I could just tell by this consolidation that I was in the wrong neck of the woods, and I didn't flip, but I got out pretty quick, and I'm like, all right, this is probably going to be a long on the intraday session, and that's what I was looking at. That's what I had on my notes, and I didn't go with the flow. All right, so moving back to the to TSLL, with that pop in the overall market, I'm curious to find if we got that move that we need. Nope, not quite, but a high of around 1352. We're going to try to diamond hands this until 1360s, and that's going to be our primary target, in which I've already planned to remove 70% of my position and leave that 30% remaining. So that's what I got going on. We're currently sitting on a winner, and that's going to wipe out the majority of my losses. So 4 losses, 1 potential winner. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We'll knock on wood, and that's going to put us relatively flat here on the day.
Good job, Joey. Good job, brother. All right, we're keeping an eye on some names. Here's what we got. All right, let's get right down to work. There's a bunch going. Let's see if they hold up. EONR, a big mover on the day, 67 and change. Big move into the $1.25, dropping quite aggressively right now into 110, losing the 10 EMA, and et cetera. So there's obviously support at 1 with the whole dollar level. And here goes OLOX. These are how quickly these move. So if I digress, I do apologize because I have to. I have no choice. So OLOX breaking out, $1.97 current bar high, 173 current bar low. Why am I interested in this? Because it breached the prior bar high at 11, the high of which was 195. As I mentioned, 197. This is a bullish engulfing candle on the 5-minute chart right now, having engulfed the prior candles, highs and lows. OLOX up 55 and a quarter. So why am I interested in this one? Well, it's got a bunch of bottoming tail candles into a key level of support. I'm talking about that volume weighted average price and or slash 10 EMA. The reason I say it that way is because basically VWAP and the 10 EMA are at the same price right now. So now you have a new 5-minute candle that's manifested. It's open. So now again, prior bar high 197, prior bar low 173. This candle looks consolidative. It's neither breached nor lost the highs and the lows of the prior candle. So engulfed at the moment. Talking about OLOX, keeping an eye on this one. Definitely interested to deal with this one, Fabian, if it does hold up at the right level. That's a big if right there, if it holds up. Okay, it's a 3-candle consolidation right now, so I don't need to be quick with it. Now, if it breaches 2, all the better, right? Then I can give it to this candle low, this current candle, 1110 candle, the low of which is 186, high 192. But as you see the position board there, your boy's involved in antics. I love having the names for these small cap gappers. Antics, ANTX. Hopefully, this one won't cause any bad antics, okay?
I don't like that.
ANTX, we're in at 8s. It's showing me 8. Sorry, Fabian, I struggle. But anyway, the reason I got into this one, 2-candle red pullback and a clean hold at the 10 EMA and the 5. I lose the trade if it loses prior bar low. It is really that simple. I'm looking for a move here into the high of the day. We're using half the risk unit today, guys, because I feel all but mentally drained, okay? The daylight savings time has really shellacked me, and so I'm running on like 50, 60% mental capacity today.
Yeah, we need to drop the daylight savings.
Yeah. Well, like Vancouver. We're still waiting on New York State, and Quebec, of course, so hurry the hell up, please, because we're getting tired. ANTX, higher low right now, but not necessarily a higher high. Joseph options 405 high, prior bar 408. We're holding and we're looking. Okay, EONR is bleeding its own blood. OLOX setting up in a consolidative mode. I'm very interested in OLOX, but let's cut the crap. Everybody wants to know about Turbine. TURB, move into 650. This has been all gas, no brakes on Turbine for a matter of days. It's an obvious energy name, and that means it's in vogue, and that means it's going to be on the list here for us to trade. 650 high, dropping aggressively down into 580. Alas, it's holding the 10 EMA on the 5. Double bottom here at VWAP. That creates comfort for me, knowing that the trader is trading Turbine on the day like and or respect the volume weighted average price, at least intraday, as an area of support. If that's what it's going to look like here, I'm game. So let's first and foremost see if it gives up the 10. If it gives up the 10, I'm looking for support at 550, with the volume weighted average price being a little bit below 550. I'm thinking 546, somewhere in around there. So that definitely is of interest to me. But the trade I'm involved in right now, Antics, we're looking for this one to hit 435. My trade is as follows. 2R on Antics is $4.35 for me. By definition, that will require a high of day breach, with the HOD being 33s, and 3R for me takes me to 2 pennies below the $0.50, 448 on ANTX. Looking real good here, guys. 43, almost 44% in the Ville of Green, and it's, you know, at that 4 1/3. That creates a bias for me that we at least glance at that $5 area, and if we do, aces. We don't, your boy's going to be out 2.5 times the risk. Joey.
All right, man. Good luck there. Yeah, so this is my target here. This is what I'm thinking on Tesla, that maybe we run into these support levels and then find somewhat of a turnaround, or it could just be strong all day. So a nice little bounce. Do I want to get out a little bit early? I mean, we're sitting on a 2.5 to 1. Am I going to wait and potentially not get that target? Yeah, anything can happen. But one more strong push. I think if the overall market's going to continue to climb today, then I think we'll be all right, considering NVDA is at the high of the day. It is starting to pull back in and showing some indecision prints, so buying pressure starting to kick in here on this name. And I wasn't sure that we were going to get this strong breakup today, considering what we were looking at the options market earlier this morning. But there is some size, and I was looking to kind of just mask myself, maybe start some writings, but 192.5 is where we're going to see the most amount of size. I was talking about 197, I believe, or 192.5 or something, or 187 is exactly what I was talking about. And this is kind of just masking behind this 185 mark. So we'll be patient. If the market does want to pull back, that's totally fine. I have a hunch that I'm going to have to sit through a little volatility. but there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. USO is starting to pull back. I was thinking short HIMs on the break line. It was like 22.25 or the $22 break, but then it's just kind of moving sideways. So we don't really want to go against the grain right now. Be a little bit more patient with this one, and the volatility may have kicked out. It might be a lot of sideways price action on this one. So be cautious of that. Bang, there goes a new HOD on the Qs, so not a bad look whatsoever. But on the grand scheme of things, I just don't know if we're ready. I mean, if you like buying the dip at the lower end of the support level, then by all means. And look at this congestion of green prints. There's only a couple of red days, but it's essentially done nothing for quite some time. February, right? So almost a month we've just been trading within this range. I do believe we're going to get a dip down a little bit below some of these key support systems. And if we do, then look for some indecisions. I just think it's almost inevitable that we're going to get that pullback considering the run that we were on earlier last year from April 25 to where we're currently trading at. You get that 56% return in the Nasdaq. That's pretty big. So a small 10-15% retracement, nothing substantial. We're only sitting about 6% right now, so another couple percentage points, and then I think it'd be a good time to slowly start allocating some positions.
Cool, man. We took prints on Antix. It's turning into a topping tail candle, inverse hammer, which I don't like. Current bar high, 22s, current bar low, 11s. It's trading at 8s, correction. It's coming down into 4. That is an ugly, ugly candle it is turning into here. It's engulfed the prior 5-minute candle in a bearish way, and here comes 4. This feels like it was certainly a bull trap. Breaching prior bar high by a good distance and now breaching prior bar low by an even greater distance. If it loses 397, it's the end of the trade. We did wet the beak for a small amount of shares. We're still holding the majority. Okay, so that is a bit of an issue here for me on Antix. Let's see if it holds the bar at, here comes 98. It crosses 97 as I stop out. So the bar at, just give me a sec here, the 1105 bar. So here it is again. Let's see if that same buyer steps in or whether, you know, they're running out of shares. All right, keeping an eye here on Turbine, TURB. It's still a 1, 2, 3 candle lower high pullback, and that is not good. So prior bar high, I'm waiting for a breach of that, 608. That is prior bar high. It's holding the 10 EMA on the 5. I'm talking about TURB, which is just about 5 4/5. I want to say 582, 583, give or take. It's a 650 high, right? We've spent very little though time ahead of 6 1/4. All the closing prints, all the closing prints are below 6 1/4. Close or open, it doesn't really matter. Now we're coming into that 10 EMA again, about a couple of pennies above it, and it looks like we're still, you know, showing some red here. This is TURB. That's not setting up. I'm not ready to get into that. So here's what my favorite are the follows. The one obviously I'm involved in. It looks like it's holding 4 back into 406, but that's not a good looking candle. Just I wanted to make that very clear. The one that we're currently in on the 5. I'm also very interested in OLOX. OLOX is a bit more tricky, because it's breaching the 10 it's breaching the 10 in VWAP, but it's finding a very, very clear area of support at the $0.75. Look at 1, 2, 3 bottoming tails, all in between 175 to 170. So I know for a fact that there are buyers and or aggressive short sellers covering at this level. So there's people buying. I know that. Now, what's the deal? Well, I'm not going to get into this one if it's trading below VWAP. That's step number 1. Step number 2, I need to see a breach of prior bar high. So you have 2 ways to trade this. 1, clearly there's a buyer at 170. If you don't have the rule that you trade this above VWAP, you punch in here and you give it to 1 or 2 pennies below 170 for, just a little bit of buffer. So that's that's approach number 1. Approach number 2 for me would be to breach the prior bar high, get above VWAP, so that way I know now it looks like the buyers are back in control. I don't need to guess whether or not we're going to bounce off this level. I have a breach of prior bar that we couldn't shake prior. So that's the other look. And the third look here would be to wait for a clean breach of 2. Obviously, you give up a lot of, possible profit by waiting for that. But, it looked like we spent very little time above 2. Only 1 green candle closing above 2. All the others definitely didn't close above 2. So that that is something to keep an eye out there for on OLOX. And then EONR, again, a prolonged pullback. This is nothing unusual with the small cap gappers. We see this all the time. They run aggressively from 9:30, maybe sometimes before, right until 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, the buy programs and or the traders start taking profits. The buy programs get shut off. Whatever the hell happens, I don't know. But the point is, this is a repeatable pattern where 11 o'clock comes along and they're pulling back. Now, it doesn't mean that they go to zero or go back to Friday's close. They usually is a more prolonged area of consolidation or retracement before we start moseying back into the area highs. So EONR, OLOX, ANTX, definitely the top three in focus. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Turbinator over here, because the Turbinator looks fantastic. It's just got to get above prior bar high. Look at this, Joey. It made me look bad. So remember, I was just pontificating about breach of prior bar high. But what I always say, I need a closing print above prior bar high. Why? Because I want to avoid garbage like this, where it wicks me above prior bar high only to drop again. So that's quite frustrating if you're looking at TURB over here. So that's what we're looking at, Joey. It looks like Antix is heading right back up into 17s, so it holds 4. I hope y'all didn't get stopped out by that, because if you did, well, then you're missing out on some of these profits. My next print here on ANTX, we're looking for 27s, and then we're holding the great majority of the position, as I've been doing lately, for 2R. As I mentioned, 2R is 435 for me, $4.35. That necessitates a high day break, Joey, because high day right now is 33.
All right, man. Nice looks there. Nice trend line on that one too. Higher lows on that one you were talking about not too long ago. Aside from that, guys, there goes USO. Break of support level at 116.30 roughly, and then continuing its slide here. We have HIMS. We got this trend line, so you can see the consistent lower highs here. Now, how are we going to react? Is it going to be any form of indecision? And can you get some form of a continuation to the southeast? IBIT, nice pattern. A lot of people are putting in the chat BMNR and GME. We'll go over those momentarily. I think I've traded GME a handful of times in my
GME's moving, Joey?
Yeah, GME is put in a new high of the day. It has broke through some key resistance zones, but I mean, if you still believe in this thing, then to each their own, right? So here it is, boom, 24.63. Not too bad of a look whatsoever, especially on today's intraday session. But there is a lack of volume. We head over to the 1 minute, and there's big time liquidity issues, extremely spready. I don't even have to pull up the book or anything along those lines, because you're gapping up and gapping down, and then you have these kind of prints where there's essentially no volume. Maybe you might have something there, but GME is moving to the northeast. As for BMNR, I mean, there it is, 19 bucks and change, so $20 there on BMNR, Bitmine Immersion. Ethereum was a little bit more choppy, I found, ETHA this morning, than what Bitcoin was. We'll head over to that, and not very liquid either. So we'll go head over to the 10-minute and see what we got cooking up. Are we holding up the volume-weighted average price? We bounce off of it on multiple occasions, so maybe you'll get a breach of this zone, but you can see there's a support system right here around 1541, and we're not quite there yet, but we're continuously rejecting that. So something that was acting as prior support, clearly acting as a resistance zone. If you can punch through and you get the volume to really kick in, like we typically look for in a breakout, then yeah, I think maybe you can get rocking and rolling. Then the top end of the zone is where you want to kind of put that next target, and so on and so on. It was the exact same narrative of what I have going on here with Tesla. I think this could be a potential target before you see any forms of indecision. And then if you have if you see what the underlying is doing, you read the price action, hey, are we going to breach this zone and continue to the top end of the range? Then there might be some more additional movement. Super chat, pull it up there. Couple super chaps there. Sharif.
Yep.
TT, I'm looking to swing Diz. What would be your entry?
Oh, Disney?
Disney.
Okay. Is no entry allowed? No, I don't want to poop on Disney. I don't even know what they're doing these days. I don't follow them all that much. Let's have a look, Joey. Yeah, it's a long consolidation. My goodness, this is like 3 freaking years, man.
Yeah.
This is September 20 freaking 2. Like, holy,
Like,
can we get a trend, please?
What's the dividend on that thing?
The divvy, we can check, Joe.
That's what
let me do some
would
TA, then do you want to check that while I'm doing the TA?
Absolutely.
Let me look to the weekly on this monster here. Okay. I hate to be flippant about this, and I don't mean to be. 125, very clear resistance. My case is July 2022, resistance at 125. February 2023, resistance at 125. March 2024, resistance 125. February, what's it called? November of 24, resistance at 120. Again, July of last year, resistance 125. I'm going to need to see something above 125 here. Now, if you're asking where the entry should be, to me, your bottom end of the range here is screaming $90 to $85. At the lows, you're looking at 80, but 80 comes in few and far between, right? You got 80 in October of 23. You got 80 again during the tariff tantrum early July or April. Sorry, almost a freaking year now, man. It's been tariff tantrum. So I'm saying you're looking for 90 to 85 entry on DIS, and you're wetting the beak. If it's a trade, if it's an investment, it's a different story. At that 120 to 125, you are locked in a multi-year range from which we can't shake. And that's a fact. That is a fact. And don't use these moving averages. They're clearly all but useless on the weekly. Let's flip to the daily, see if they're equally as useless. What's the divvy?
We're looking at a 1.25%.
A dollar? 1.25%?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our next dividend payout is 75 cents.
So I hope that helps, Nick. I hope that helps, brother. Pardon me?
Another super chat.
SNDK. You want to look at SNDK for the man?
Absolutely, Robert. And I know our guy Danny Boy out there. I don't know if he's super chatting from a peninsula or anything along those lines, but if he is, nice, man. All right, let's pull up SNDK. SNDK. Can you check the chart, please? Absolutely, Charlie. So yeah, let's take a look at the daily and see what we got going on. We just took some off there at 1360s on TSLL. I'm going to take a little bit more off as the bid hits there, and then we're going to be rocking and rolling. I mean, this is essentially what's going on, right? Like we've seen kind of the same moves in Micron. It's been an absolute monstrous run, just minting a bunch of millionaires. If you've been in this from $47 all the way up to 722, that's a investor's dream essentially. Are you going to be grabbing it? You're bouncing off of those support levels. But keep in mind, just do the most basic TA that you can. This is still intact. There's a support level. If it breaches on either or, that might give you an opportunity. This could be a solid signal to get engaged here at the break of that support, of the trend line, and then get out at the breach of that support level. You can see there's a little bit of a consolidation that was prior resistance that can act as support. If that goes, then maybe avoid it a little bit. So one more, yeah, pop up Danny Boys there and see what we got going on. 61. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy bear market eve. Okay, Sharif, you may be looking at NFE.
There goes Antics into 2R. We waited, and I think we also talked and looked at some charts, Joey. But here comes the high, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna have to digress. 35 2R, 48 3R, high a day, 39. Go Antics, go. We're still holding a good amount of shares here. Let's go ahead and post. We're gonna post Joey 4R. Sorry. 3R, relax, Sharif. 48. So we're gonna wait a little bit south of that. Okay.
You hit the 3R.
We're close.
Okay.
We're 39s is the high, and my 3R is 48. So we're close. We're not quite there yet. But yeah, Antics is going. It's up 51%. Let's look at this one. Danny Boy, Disco Pants. I love this. Good morning, gents. Happy bear market eve, Sharif. You might look at NFE. Say less, Danny. Of course we'll look at it. Not even a question, my boy. And NFE. If I can come up with a funny name for this one, I shall. Oh boy, that's a nice looking daily chart, Joey.
Yeah. If you're a
that's
bear.
a nice one right there.
So that's maybe why you said Mary, our happy bear market eve.
Yeah. Or let's see where this one's at. We're up 16 2/3 here. It's just you know how I feel, man. The chart's got to be more filled in than this. And this is a little zigzaggy. That's first and foremost. So we got a pre-market high. I get oil was up higher in the pre, and so we're not going to be as up now. I get that 133. It's got a decent trend ever since I want to say about 9:45. Gets a breakout candle. The higher lows are on right now, no question about it. 129 seller. You're going to have probably resistance here at 131. No closing prints above 131, despite the fact that at 5:55 this morning we got into the high of the day, not the official high, that is, at 133. NFE, not my favorite. There are others that I can get to, but you know, I'm not saying this is not tradable. It's done 12.5 million shares on the day. I realize it's $1.25, but the liquidity is there. I'm looking at the spread right now, and the spread's 1 penny. So it's not too bad. $357 million market cap. I would say continuation. You're looking for some higher lows. If you lose the 10 EMA here, then that I would be out. You can also have tighter range or tighter trade, excuse me, using prior bar low. I would suggest against that, just because look at this candle here at 11:10, breaches prior bar low, subsequent candle breaks out, and then the subsequent candle after that makes that 129 high. Entry, possibly at the 10 EMA, stop below the 20. The money fills, as you can see, vis-a-vis this 11:10 candle here, are between the 10 and the 20 on NFE. That's my initial observation there. All right, so antics. 439 high, coming back down now into the quarter dollar, decisions to be made. We know for a fact that there's support, now support at around 420. I want to say between 415 to 420. I want to make my case to you guys super quick just before we go up to the big desk with a dare for crypto. I feel there was a bit of a shelf here. I was holding this through the 420 resistance. It resisted the break for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we got this monster candle at 25, 1125. So I'd like to see 420 hold. I'd like to see a range here hold between 415, 420. Breakout level. Price action wise, 420, 10 EMA on the 5 though, 415, hence why I give a range. Let's go find out what crypto is up to now with Adara.
Take a look here at BTC. Bitcoin's move today, taking out its entire drop during the weekend. And we're even about halfway through taking out that decline on Friday. We opened today's session around 65.9, so just shy of 66,000, currently above 69,000. So nice recovery here for BTC. And this weekly chart, we're poised for our second straight green week after breaking a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 week red streak last week. I mean, we just barely broke that streak last week. We were only up 0.31% according to this TradingView data. But either way, looks like this could be at least a temporary change in the tides for Bitcoin. I want to talk about these crypto stocks because they're not all necessarily moving in tandem. You have MSTR, which just broke high of day, but COIN, Coinbase, actually well removed from its high of day. We'll take a couple others here. MARA, Marathon Digital, near day's highs. RIOT, well, I mean, sort of removed here from day's highs, and I would say a little bit more range-bound and tepid than some of its other peers in this space. But yeah, the point is here, even as we do get a move up in crypto, we're not necessarily seeing that reflected to the same extent that we might have a month or so ago when it comes to these crypto equities. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. Yeah, let's take a look at Bitcoin here from the daily. We had Adara looking at it from a weekly standpoint, but let's pull up this underlying and see what we've been up to. I mean, a nice recovery. What I was thinking here this morning, and I kind of went against my own game plan, is that we had that breakout session, but then we had 2 red days. And I'm like, at some point I believe we're going to get some follow through, and it seems to be that today was that session. So nothing wrong whatsoever. And this isn't a bad indecision print right here around those lows. This could hold up. Right now, you can see that we're forming this consecutive higher lows, so that's not horrible whatsoever. You're bouncing off of that tertiary trend right there, and then maybe we can get an additional move up into 74. But first things first, the supply zone, you come to the lower end of the support, and then now you're starting to find somewhat of a rebound as it is starting to come back in. But aside from that, not too bad of a look on in the crypto space. As for Ethereum, yeah, I mean, it's, you know what I say typically, Sharif. Sometimes
what are you saying, Joey?
It really sucks to suck sometimes, and I think that that Ethereum's in that neck of the woods. I think it's going to be a little bit more time until this thing gets rocking and rolling, but we're still down 60% approximately from that previous almost $5,000 high to where we're currently trading at right now. Just a little bit 2020. Shout out to 2020. Anyways, aside from the COVID year, that would be, aside from that, not a horrible look, but downtrend still fully intact. Now, as for our TSLL trade, I'm sitting on approximately 12 to 15% of this position. I told you guys we're going to take the bulk of it off at 1360. I took 30% off right here. I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to get overly greedy. We hit that 2.5 to 1. We get that move up in, so I pieced off at a 2.5 to 1, then I took some more off at approximately a 3 to 1, right? I'm in at 28s, was risking to 18s, and then we wait 30 cents. Now I'm sitting on the remainder to leave it for a runner. I'll do an additional partial. Maybe I'll remove half of what I have remaining off at 1365s if we're fortunate enough to get that move.
Bro, this is wildness here on Antics. Look at the spread, opened up to 13 pennies all of a sudden.
Oh.
It just made a high a day at 45. I was actually posted at 45. It didn't print. That breaches now. No, 48 is 3R, pardon me. So that doesn't breach 3R, but we don't get the print either, but we've breached the high of the day. It's not a good looking candle though. Doji candle with equidistant upper and lower wicks. If we breach prior bar low, this could be a problem on Antics, okay? We're gonna keep a close eye on that. We'll see what we get and we won't get upset. Shout out to my man Neil, who I know is having a time, all right? So let's get to some more, because I said very little about ETSA, and that's blasphemous because ETSA was far and away my biggest winner on Friday, having outdone my biggest loser. I was emotionally charged on Friday, and I don't anticipate to get like that again. Bro, when you size up, there is like this adjustment period of emotional regulation that you have to kind of get through. And every step sizing up seems to, you encounter new emotional turbulence, let's just call it like that. And you think that the emotional turbulence would just subside because it becomes systematic. Yeah. At least for me, it's not, right? Yeah. So if I'm taking, like, just say, $50 a share or $50 per trade risk, you'd be like, okay, well, I've stomached the $50 per trade risk, and then you move up to $100 per trade risk, and all of a sudden you have different emotions circulating again. It's not as systematic as I would like it to be.
You know what I find, Sharif? So it's like when I'm sizing up aggressively on positions, so hence you're taking more shares, but it's kind of like a stair-step effect. So if I were to push more aggressively than average, then that step lower you're significantly more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't want that.
Yeah. No, but then
I don't want to be comfortable.
Then you have to take that next step to make that secondary step a little bit more comfortable, right?
Yeah. All right, so that's kind of the look there. Anyway, we're keeping an eye on ETSA. So watch out here for Antics. This one, if it loses prior bar, the low of which is 21, I think I'm going to flatten out here, despite the fact that we're at O's. Check out AZI. I'm looking right at it here, brother. It's AZI is breaking out. I didn't get an opportunity to talk about this one. I want to talk about ETSA, but there it is, 89 pennies. This one's really going up to almost 90. This one's likely going to see $1, 70 penny flat top break. It looked like it had a lot of resistance there, right at 830 in the pre-market, and with that 70 penny high later on. What is that noise? Take a look at AGH. I haven't had an opportunity to take a look at AGH. Let's take a look over here. Oh, wow. What am I looking at here, brother? This is a bit of a downtrend, quite frankly. AGH. Okay. Still up 12%, but definitely, the best trades behind it. I would be saying look to short, lower highs possibly. Yeah, if it comes in and it doesn't breach that lower high, I'd be looking short. I don't have a read on this. It's not really for me. So I'm going to continue to look at AZI, EDSA, ANTX. EONR is going to lose its spot, and so is OLOX. So here any minute.
All right, good stuff. Are we going over to Adair? I thought there.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, good stuff. I don't know. This could be a really risky play. You can see that we're a little bit north of our last partial right now, but there's a lot of indecision in this consolidation for range starting to be formed here on NVDA. I'm thinking about risking just a little bit here, and I'm going to use NVDL as my vehicle. 78.13s, but the more we squeeze, I like it. There is a key support level and starting to form that shelf. So if this tanks, I think that the overall market tank might be a little bit of an aggressive term, but essentially what I'm getting at is you get any form of selling, it starts to have a pullback, you breach this support level, then I think you can take that next step down, and that's kind of what I'm aiming at here on this trade. You have to take the opportunity. Oh, of course. All right, I guess we won't be using NVDL. We're gonna have to go over to NVDA. What is the short? What is the inverse of NVDL? Someone please let me know. Okay, so that's gonna put me up around, what did it say? We're gonna have to give it to 50. So we wanna measure our risk, obviously, accordingly. It's gonna be a little bit under 36 cents approximately right now. A little bit more of a squeeze. If we reject this top end zone at a quarter, then that's gonna be my green light to go. So patience is really key. As we take an additional leg higher here in TSLL, I told you that the primary target is going to be around 1365. At that point, we will be at a 3.5 to 1 using the risk to reward metrics that Sharif has been as of late. All right, so there it is. Yeah, that's my signal. That's my green light to go here. Let's engage a little bit on NVDL. I mean, I'm shorting the strongest name in the market. If it decides that it wants to rock and roll, then it can blow you out of the water, absolutely, with a just steady grind higher. But I do like what we're starting to see and display. Okay, yeah, patience. Let's be really patient on this one because look at this here, Gore. This is the 5-minute time frame. Indecision print on the 1 in the 5. A big time resistance zone. You can see we did establish a new one, but we haven't had the ability to break this pivot high. So what I'm thinking is if I sell the top end of the range, and I always talk about increasing your risk to reward and getting in a good position, because where am I essentially proven wrong? Here at the break of the high of the day, correct? I'm out. Then maybe we can get a little bit better of a price. But if I were to short the lower end of the range, and Juan Padilla, not Juan, my boy, Juan said that, Juan Padilla. He said, hey man, what are you doing selling the lower end of the range? And I talk about this day in and day out. It's like, hey, you want to increase that risk to reward? Get in at the top end. So if you're shorting from here, you're not proven wrong. So that's almost $1, about 70 cents that you have risk on, and I don't want that much, right? I would rather increase the shares and then have that nice tight stop, get in at a precise level, and then see if you can take that additional leg lower. So we're continuously knocking on this door. The longer it takes for it to sell, then I would suspect maybe you have an additional liquidity grab, but if not, we're gonna be looking to get involved here on NVDA short.
All right, Antix just took out the $0.50. It's at the $0.50 now. So we've breached 3R. We just wet the beak there at 3R, but full disclosure, I took the majority of the position out at 2R. Now we're holding a piece for the dream. We're gonna let this one go until I don't like what I see, until we breach trend. So it looks like that doji candle that I was concerned about was not the end all and be all. I'm talking about the 11:30 candle on the 5, and now we're dealing with resistance at the $0.50. So I will likely look to 2 different levels. Let's talk about this a little bit here now that we've got the opportunity to rest a little bit easier. I see resistance, initial resistance, of course, at that $0.33. I'm talking between 30 to 35. So that's price action. That's a triple top there that sent us back to 4 and got me into the trade, into the 10 EMA on the 5. And you love when this happens, at least I do, when the psychological area of support, like the $4 area, jives, overlaps with, is in cahoots with the 10 EMA or any other possible technical area of support, whether it's volume, weighted average price, whatever you're charting on. So that's what happened there, and then rocketed right back up. So I'm looking for 430 to 435 as support. If that doesn't hold, it's a zone. Currently showing me, the 10 EMA is currently showing me 426, so let's just say the $0.25, and that creates a range for me, 435 to 425, possible buy zone here on Antix. That's the way that I see this. It's held the 10 EMA on a closing basis, but as you can see with that 11:15 candle, it breached it on a wick basis. So if you're gonna get in, Like, for example, let's just say 435. You get in at the top end of the range I just articulated, between 25 to 35. And then you want to place your stop, obviously. So if you're looking to place your stop relative to the 10 EMA, I would say, you know, you're going to have to be clever about how you do that, because it's already shown you its ability to kind of breach that 10 EMA. And if you're going to have a close stop to the 10 EMA or right below it, you may find yourself getting wicked out, okay? So Antics in focus, 450 high, we're long 8s, we're still holding. AZI, AZI, 89 penny high, showing 85 now. This current candle on the 5, the 1140 candle, is the one I'm referring to, entirely engulfed, of course, by the prior bar's price action, the high of which is, as I mentioned, 85. But look how low the price is there. 71.77 prior bar low. Current bar levels are 86 1/3 high, 81 1/2 low. So if you were to get in, and I'm not saying you're going to get in here, I'm not. You could give it, you know, to the breach of 80. You could, if you want to size up a little bit more, give it to current bar low, which, as I mentioned, 81.5. That's not really my move, but those who want to get in here with a bias that this one gets to or blows through 100, those are some possible options. I like the breakout level. I'm talking about 70 pennies to about 72, 73 pennies. That's the zone I'd like to see it come into, knowing full well that it may not come back to that. And I may be forced. Okay, it may be forced to get in a higher price. Now, you have a different level off which to work. We just opened up a new 5-minute bar, 1145 bar now. So prior bar low, and recall, mention this to you guys, 81.5 is prior bar low. We're showing 85.5 now. So it's about 5 pennies worth of risk. I think that that's pretty good. So AZI continuing to go here, and its proximity to the dollar makes this one, at least in my opinion, and never financial advice, more likely than not to hit the dollar on the day. So we'll see if it gets up there and whether we're participating in it. Again, my levels are a little bit lower. I want to mention, there goes Antics in 459. We're holding here. It's going to show 60 soon. We're tapping out. We're taking the remaining amount out, and that's a good trade. We're going to be looking for a little bit more. Let's see if Antics wants to come back down, as I mentioned, into the third of a dollar. But just before we send it back to our boy Joey Opsh, EONR. This one bled its own blood quite aggressively, lost the 10, and for whatever reason here, is finding support generally in the one mid-single digits, 106, 107, 108, whatever. It's finding a little bit of support. Now, it's starting to put incrementally higher low wicks. So what I'm looking for here is that rounding pattern, right? Where we incrementally get higher highs on every subsequent bar, followed, of course, with higher lows. So if we get that rounding pattern, we can base our out on the area low. Case in point, let's just say, for example, EONR does that curling pattern, and we're going to get in 112, 13, 14, something like that. We know for a fact that there was a buyer here on the 1130 bar at 106. We know that same buyer showed his ugly head at that bar at 1120 at 106. And then he even got more aggressive on the 1140 candle, buying at 107. So you have an area low off which to say, I'm wrong if it breaches this area. So EONR, I'm looking for that rounding pattern, and we're going to weasel in, Joey.
All right, man. Good stuff there on the weaseling. Mike P. So there it is. We take a little bit off there. I don't know if you can say that, but anyways, aside from that, 13, 16, here we go. There's the squeeze as the market is climbing a little bit higher. This thing is the king of the fake outs. So I'm also getting involved in a consolidation zone, but I like where we're positioned. Once again, at the top end of this range, not at the lower, and trying to sell the break of that support. If it breaks, then so be it, right? We'll have to take that loss. We put a decent size here, a position. If it breaks through this resistance and I see the volume really start to kick in, then I can just get out a little bit early, even though you just want to stay methodical and just really stick to the stop loss and everything. But if price action's telling you to get out a little bit early, obviously it can fool you, bamboozlement, everything along those lines. But if it breaches, picks up momentum, then we can get out and then reassess the situation to see if there's even an opportunity to re-engage in the short, all right? We did get to the lower end of the range, but we bounced right off of the support, and then that's just displays of strength, especially if you come right back to the top end. And then if we look at the tape, that's the TSLL tape, Head over to the NVDA tape. It's probably relatively strong, even though we're starting to hit the bid. We're starting to hit the bid that's like that, but consecutive movements right at the ask as well. So we'll keep an eye on it. No need to panic or get out of it. We'll just let the market do its work, and if we get an aggressive pullback, then sure enough, we're positioned well. Because why? We're at the top end of the range, okay? You can see it, not exactly, but relatively close. I mean, it's almost perfect. It's way better than selling 20 cents lower, 30 cents lower, okay? So there it is on HIMS. HIMS is breaking down, couldn't breach that trend line. Just basic stuff. You know, Neil, he would probably look to engage on the backside of this trend, but that wasn't the case, right? It didn't break out, so you're going to want to look to continue to the downside. And there goes NVDA. This is one of the most difficult vehicles, in my opinion, to short. All right, so, oh, okay. All right, I got all that. Hopefully I didn't flip my position. So at the breach, you can see the volume and the momentum really starting to pick up. This could be just a liquidity grab. Totally fine on that front. I want to make sure I didn't flip. Okay, yeah, we didn't. So we take the loss there on NVDA, and I have no issues with re-engaging if the price action displays, hey, Joe, let's get involved. This was just a shakeout of weak hands, aka I got out, and then if there's an opportunity to take that second and third short, then we're gonna look to get involved, okay? Because we are really extended from the volume weighted average price. That bull flag is working, but if selling pressure really starts to kick back in, we'll be able to display, because each individual candle tells its own story, and we'll head over to TSL. All right, so we did take a lot of our loss off right there on this specific trade. We give some back on NVDA. Okay, so there it go. Oh, I thought that was another turnaround corner. So we're gonna send it over to Adair, and then we'll take a little bit more off here on this TSLL as it continues to climb a little bit higher there, Sharif. So a nice little look. We'll grab some. This is all bonus essentially, considering our 3-to-1 was at 1360s, and we hit that target. Now we're just letting the last remaining ride, and we're gonna piece it out until we run out of shares.
All right, Joey.
Adair.
Keep an eye on some comments here from President Putin of Russia. He's reportedly saying that, quote, oil production linked to the Strait of Hormuz risks coming to a complete halt as early as next month. He also said that changes in logistics for oil deliveries will take a long time and require significant expenditure. Ruling, as we've kind of heard tons of reports and commentary about, that the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. So again, Putin of Russia commenting on the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and how this is going to be basically impacting production and the expenditures required as a result. Back to you.
All right, yeah, good stuff. I wonder. Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if he's ever had one. A Putin.
Putin?
Yeah. Putin.
That's a good question.
A really good question.
Should. Tucker should have asked him when he went there for that
really
7-hour interview.
I don't know, maybe Tucker doesn't even know what a poutine is. But I'm sure
I hope he does. Yeah,
but he's American. A lot of Americans are like, hey, what is that stuff?
You see some of Tucker's stuff lately? He's been railing against this war.
Yeah, he has.
Really?
What was he talking about? He's like, hey, yeah, what's the population of Iran? And the guy, but he's like, yeah.
It's like 90-something change.
No, but the guy, he was the American.
Oh, yeah?
He was talking to me. He's like, yeah, I don't even know. So he's like,
he doesn't know?
So yeah, Tucker's like, so you plan on invading and overthrowing a government and you don't even know.
Oh, that was Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
That was a while back, though. Yeah. That was not Ted Cruz's best moment there.
Yeah, so,
Joey.
Yeah, one second. You got something
I don't got it, but Antics is rocketing up. Here comes 5.
Yeah, so there it goes. That's why we get out, right? Teddy Cruz there. So there
he
it
did
is,
have
guys.
one with Huckabee as well.
So that's why we get out when we're supposed to. It did breach through. I'm glad that we got out a little bit earlier and didn't give the 10 cents because the volume really did start to kick in. We were in at the top end of the range looking for that move lower. I think this just might be an additional liquidity grab, and then maybe we can get a continued or an additional move lower. At some point, it will pull back because it's choppy and it typically has those deep ones, and I want to try to take advantage of that.
All right, man. Antics is going. Here comes 494. That's the high. It's going to take out 5. That is the high of the day right now. Yeah, I didn't hold it. Yeah, into the high. But I'm looking now at EONR. This one is starting to do that rounding pattern that we talked about. And if it gets above, I want to say I put my entry at 116. Let's see if it can clear some of this resistance over here on these 2 bars, 1105 and 1110. If it can clear that, then I'll believe more in the rounding pattern and a possible move into 1 1/4. I just got stopped out of AZI high, lost 80 pennies, probably too tight of a stop there. We're going to keep ASI on the side chart over here, and DTCK is coming back into the volume weighted average price at around 253. Something to keep a lookout for. We're going to the big desk with Adair with news.
We have more commentary here on oil. President Trump reportedly telling the New York Post, quote, "I have a plan for everything." I've heard other quotes of him from various organizations today, but I'm seeing this one circulate a lot right now, so I want to let you know. Also, a couple more comments from Vladimir Putin of Russia. He is saying that Russia will continue to supply energy resources to countries that they deem to be reliable partners. He also said, much like what we've heard from President Trump, that the current high commodity prices are only temporary. Back to you.
Thank you very much. What are you looking at, Joey? I'm looking at setting up here on EONR, guys.
Nice, yeah, nice look. There we go on TSLL, guys, continuing to climb higher. We've been seeing this one since 10:30, about an hour and a half there now. The market is definitely ripping. You can see that the Nasdaq is getting a nice bounce here, guys. So is NVDA. Keep squeezing. I think it's going to give a good opportunity for a potential short. I mean, I don't think we can continue on that trajectory for too long, but we also don't want to get too aggressive on it. I will be looking to take some more off. Now I'm sitting on approximately 5% remaining of this TSLL. Let it ride, man. We'll take a partial out at 13.75 if we're fortunate enough to get that one, but not too horrible of a trade here on the 2X derivative on Tesla. Now, as for this, I thought that this is where I thought we were going to run into some resistance here. We have now surpassed that. We're north of that specific zone, considering as a pre-market low. Maybe you get some curl around, but that doesn't seem to be the narrative so far on today's session. And congratulations to my boy Boreb, who is also taking the long on Tesla. Loss, I think you said you were in Tesla as well, too, and on the long. So a beautiful bull flag. And if you're going to take a bull flag on any name, I guess it's going to start with an N and end with an A right here. So boom. Boom, nice move up there, over $1. Yeah, over $1 you're collecting if you do get the lower end of the range. I was shorting at the top end of the range, looking for that move back into towards the volume weighted average price, but that was not the case. But we're fortunate enough to be sitting in a little bit of this. Oh, wow, is this a genuine print? Okay, let's get over here to the 1 minute. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive minutes. In the past 10 minutes, we have 2 red candles, a nice aggressive bounce, and we do have the volume supporting it. I'm going to be looking for any forms of exhaustion.
All right, keeping an eye on Turbine, TURB. It is making a move here, still south of 6 1/4. Not like I really want to say that 6 1/4 is that line that we all need to keep an eye out on, but it's kind of, yeah, dilly-dallying here with some higher lows. Certainly not much in the way of higher highs, obviously, with that 650 high, but we spoke about this before. The closing prints all south of that 6 1/4, so that is something to look out for there. I'm keeping a close eye here on EONR. I'm biased to this rounding pattern, but I need it to be above key areas of resistance. That's what I'm looking at there. ETSA also could be setting up. I was speaking to somebody in the chat. Buy zone here on ETSA, I want to say from around 750 really into this kind of 780. It is a bit of a wide zone given the price, but that is what it is, right? You got the volume weighted average price at around 7, high 40s, and then obviously the $0.5 psychological support. You also have that implied balance high resistance there right at 760. That is the 935 candle. And now you've got a double bottom here, 1145 and 1150, the low of which is 779, 77, or 780. So keep your lookout there. AZI also coming in. Let's see if it breaches that 86 penny area. I'm 0 for 1 on AZI, but it's setting up as a good bull flag. Now, I did get wicked out on that candle at 1150 that lost 80 pennies. You can see how quickly it retraced above 80, but I don't want to get cut up on this name. Let's get the quality entries, and then we'll look to execute on this one. So let's have a look here on AZIs. It comes right back into that 85 penny area resistance. No closing prints above 85 pennies, but that's for now. As I mentioned, high a day 89, but very few in the way of prints anyway above 86, quite frankly, despite the fact that the high is 89. We spent all but no time there. You can see that quick wick on the one top chart there. So something to look out for here. AZI turning, but freaking Antics, man, it just keeps going. Where is it, Antics? There it goes through 5 into 511. It's all gas, no brakes on this one. It's getting quite extended away from the 10 EMA, which is now at 4.5. The high is 511, showing 5 here. Great strength on ANTX, now up almost 77% and looking to do some more damage to the high side. Let's do a little quick TA on ANTX. Let's see where we can expect the resistance to come. We haven't been up at these levels for a while, so the $5 level is going to be super important. Look at that double bottom from May 2023. Obvious area of resistance. We're coming from much, much higher, obviously, though, into the 20s. We lost all that back in February of 2024 when this thing dropped from 20 bucks and then, was trading at like $3 within a few days. $5, key area of resistance. Let's see if we can get above it. That's the double bottom, as I mentioned, May 2023. But this one's already higher, man. 519. The breakout is on. The shorts are running scared here. They're squeezed and they're in trouble. Let's wait for the reversion, though, because this one probably will turn back a little bit. Let's see exactly where it goes, where it comes back from. Whoa, my God, 523. Antics is really going here, man. Good?
Yeah.
Keep an eye on this one. I don't think 5 is cleared with enough distance to say, yeah, we're going to use 5. But here are the levels. Current bar low, 479. High is the 23, as I mentioned. Prior bar low takes you down to the $0.50. So that will take you down into the 10 EMA and psychological support. Now at 4.5. There it goes again, Joseph. 435. This one's all gas right now, guys. ANTX. I lament having taken that off, but who knows? That it was going to squeeze 540 now. The strength is very, very palpable right now on ANTX. It looks like the $0.50 is coming in momentarily, but it is getting quite extended. So if you're looking at getting here, you got to think about obviously the profit taking and the shorts, seeing exactly what you're seeing, right? You're not seeing it in isolation. EONR, just to digress back to that one for a sec, still kind of showing me that, I want to say, curling pattern, but I am alive to the 3 uninterrupted topping tail candles here that we got on the 5. These ones are not good. That means either there's low conviction right now amongst the longs, and they're only looking at taking about 5 or 6 pennies, or the shorts are very, very aggressive. Now, for the moment, the longs are winning out vis-a-vis these higher lows, but I am alive, very much so, to these topping tail candles and what they could mean here on EONR. We're going to pause for a second. Neil is not here today, guys, so no Neil's lesson of the day, but we're going up to Adara for happening now.
S&P 500 really trying with this 670 level. We've touched it with quite a few of these 15-minute candles over the last hour, but unable to breach it. Let's see if that level gets breached over the next few 15-minute candles. Nasdaq looking very similar, both S&P 500 and the Nasdaq gap down, but we're actually kind of near these prices where we closed last trading session. Right now, as we do have the market continuing to react to and assess all this news in the oil space. USO, of course, on watch here, along with all these other oil plays. You've got the small caps, including TPET and BATL. You have the larger cap oil-related equities like CVX, LNG, as well to look at. So there's a lot of different ways to play this catalyst, but let's actually get into some of the notes on said catalyst. We did have the G7, or certain financial ministers here with the G7 meeting up today. Before we had the official statement, we already had comments from French financial minister Lescure, who said, hey, it doesn't really seem like we're going to be at a place where we're ready to release these stockpiles. G7 statement does reflect that. So it looks like they're ready to take necessary measures if needed, including the potential release of energy stockpiles. As of right now, though, they're going to be, quote, closely monitoring the situation and developments. Let's talk here about GEV. I do want to bring up this one. It was at our watch list this morning, but nice move up here for GE Vernova. They got not only a double upgrade and a price target increase of almost double here from $560 to $1,100, going from sell to buy with Rothschild. But they also are going to be joining the S&P 100 as of March 23rd, 2026. So 2 strong catalysts here for GEV, stock pushing to the upside. Another stock here near intraday high, speaking of these additions, is VRT. Vertiv making new intraday, I believe maybe near all-time highs as well here for VRT. They're going to be joining the S&P 500 coming through, along with a couple other companies, including COHR, SATS, and the other one's LITE. So all four of those joining the S&P 500 on March 23rd. Earnings going to be on focus this week as well. Later down the line, we're going to have Oracle and Ulta Beauty on Tuesday and Thursday, respectively. But we did have Zim Integrated Shippings, which is going to be acquired soon. They reported this morning. Nice look for them. Tonight, after the bell, we're going to get HPE or Hewlett Packard. So lots to keep an eye on today, without a doubt. In the meantime, back to this intraday trading. We've got Joe and we've got Sharif.
Oh my days, ANTX, my goodness. Can you make me feel any worse? There it goes into the high of the day, 583. It is up 97%. Coming back down now into 50s. Keep an eye out on this one. The strength is on. I'm waiting for an entry here on EONR. It's not clearing 16. I'm waiting for 16 to get cleared. I've already got the order active. Let's see if it gives it to me. It's finding some resistance here at the 15, 16 penny level. My out will be the breach of 106, which is the bottom of the rounded pattern on EONR. Let's see if it comes in. Coming back down into 14 here. So not quite ready to kind of go at the moment, but who cares when ANTX is doing what it's doing right now? This one's going to see 6 quite soon. Very, very strong move here, 97%. Keep your eye out on this one. The levels are on this one, obviously $5 area, probably psychological support now that we've been into 83, 583 that is. But the 10 EMA on the 5 is still about 25 pennies below that $5 area. So you could get a buy zone here, really depending on how this trades between that $5 whole dollar support and the 10 EMA. It doesn't look like it's making its way down there now, quite frankly. 683. Keep your eye out on this one. It's been a long time since we've been up at these levels here on ANTX. So if you're doing a little TA, you got to look at some of those levels with a bit of, with a little bit of suspicion. We'll do the TA again on this one, but we're already through that $5 area that we spoke about by a good amount. You're looking here at about 780 to 8. That was an area resistance shelf. Let's say 7 2/3, pardon me. And then a lot of the closing prints go to 8. We're talking, of course, about July 2023 to the breakout there in mid-August 2023 when we broke above that area. So 7 and change, I want to say 7 2/3 to about 8 possible resistance on ANTX. We're going to pause for a second, guys. We're going up to the big desk with Adara.
Reuters reporting that President Trump is going to be reviewing options to combat the oil price spike as soon as today. So again, Reuters reporting President Trump could be reviewing these oil price spike options as soon as today. I guess we have this push higher in oil. He's previously said that he thinks it's going to be a short-term spike and then it'll right itself. Looks like as of right now could be changing his tune on that. If I get more details, I will keep you posted. Apparently, some options under discussion with the G7 in the U.S. could include releasing the strategic reserves, which we already know the G7 isn't really ready to do right now. There could also be intervening in oil futures or waiving taxes. Back to you.
Great stuff there, Adara. As always, we need as much information as possible, considering we are short the largest name in the overall market. We're going to take a second attempt here on this one.
Okay,
I had the 180. I hit the key. Zero fill. So this is a little bit of a chase for me. And I mean, almost 30 cents, right? So that's going to substantially hinder your risk to reward ratio. If it breaches this support level, then we might be okay. But I have about 33% more size on this trade than what I had on this initial one. And I'm glad that we got a little bit early. So let's see if we're fortunate enough to get this breakdown as we head a little bit lower, slightly ITM, but nothing substantial. We're going to wait for more. And I mean, we can get that breakdown into the middle of that range if we're fortunate enough. But I also have to take into consideration the weakness within the selling pressure and that I'm going against the trend right now. Okay, so this is a counter trend. This thing could be an all-day grinder, and then later on in the session, it's just like, okay, I have to come to a realization that I'm literally 0 for 5 on 0 for 4 currently. If I'm wrong on this one, 0 for 5 on shorts, and I'm 1 for 1 on longs. So what does that tell you? Like, what am I still shorting if I'm -5? And it looks like it's gonna to break here. So there's time and a place to look for these shorts, but it may not be in these stronger names as NVDA gets bought back up on every single occasion.
All right, man. We don't have anything new. Still waiting on EONR for a possible move above 116. Happy that I chose that level for the breakout because you can see kind of rejected that area, at least for the moment. Coming back down, losing prior bar. That's EONR. I'm still keeping a close eye here on AZI because it's still holding trend. It looks like more of a prolonged bull flag. However, the bull flag is with a bunch of lower highs, so you can kind of wait for the breach of that, and then you get a nice squeeze possibly into that dollar. You're coming towards the higher end here of the lower high range. Let's just say the high of this range, obviously the 89 penny is the high of the day, but it looks like you had a lot of resistance at 86 1/3. So that's AZI, keeping a close eye on that. ANTX right at that 5 1/3, and it looks like it found support here at 5 1/4. Prior bar low, by the way, 517. So if your bias at Antix is going to hold prior bar low, this is a great entry point. 5 1/3, say 535. You give it to about 5 mid-teens at 517. That is, if your bias, of course, that we're going to take out prior bar high. I'm going to keep an eye out on that. Bovin also telling me about SAFX. I don't mind it, Bovin. It's up nicely on the day. Let's say it's about 61%. There's obvious resistance here, initial resistance at the $0.33, and then it breaches that, and now it's kind of using the $0.33 as support, 33 pennies. But there's a lot of wicks on this, Bovin, so it's a little bit, you know, I don't want to say convoluted, but it's all over the dang map. On SAFX, but not a bad trade whatsoever. Also, ETSA coming back down, says Amir, into the volume weighted average price. There it is, unbroken, lower highs. Look at that downtrend line on EDSA, right at that 7.5. 7.5, not only VWAP, but also implied balance high breakout. Look at that top there into 750, and then you get the eventual break much later at 1105 once it takes out that implied balance high. I would say wait for a decided break of this lower trend line. Just because it's at VWAP doesn't mean it's going to rocket back up, but keep your eye out on EDSA. It was a great one on Friday. And there goes ANTX, unreal. Unreal, holds prior bar low. So if you got in at that 35 area, there it is through 6. The squeeze is on. This one is really rocketing up now, 105% into 603. Holy moly. Yeah, man, I should have definitely been holding a little bit there, Joey, but who knew, right? Into 603 goes ANTX, clean hold. Should have been looking at getting in again here, man. You had a 517 prior bar low. This prior bar had a 525 low, and now you got a 603 high. So a lot of strength on ANTX. Be on the lookout there. Those are the bunch that I'm looking at. There's so many. AZI waiting for a trend break. EONR waiting for a trend break. ANTX, I just don't want to chase. And SAFX right back into the high, Bovin. Right back into 38 pennies. It looks like it's going to take out the high there, having found support at 33-ish. That's where the wicks seem to find the buyers, having obviously used 33 pennies prior as resistance. So a lot moving right now, guys. Trade them carefully because, as I say, they're always around for a good time, not a long time.
Not a long time, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the more we bounce off of this level, I think that you might happen to open up on the backside of this trend. So I want to see a break relatively soon. And then as soon as we get a 1-minute candle opening on the north side of this here, then I'm at a dodge because I'm going against the grain on that. And I have a lower tolerance for that move. But it's starting to seem relatively weak. Boom, there we go. All right, that's what we want to see. A nice flush to the downside. I have a trend line drawn. It's unfortunately the delay on this thing is absolutely painful. Yeah, see, boom, 62, another bounce off of it. Ooh, at what point is it going to snap? Because we also have to take into consideration, right? Like this was acting as resistance, and then we're just bouncing off of this support level, essentially. So we really want to see the volume and the momentum pick up in order for this thesis to really cook clean. And the more kind of space that I give myself on this one, in the money I'm essentially referring to, then the more comfortable I'll get, and then just have the ability. It's just the initial starting of the position. And I would have loved to bid in here. I should have been in at 90s. I tried working on some of my hotkeys this morning, but it's just, you can't do certain things when
What are you trying to do?
I was just trying to have a certain share size partial.
Share size, yeah, that's the tricky part. Yeah.
Bro, it's not that.
So the way that I would do is I would put the squiggly line. You ever hit this thing?
No.
Yeah, so look at this. So look what I do. When I hit it, it goes to my default, which is 100, right?
Yeah.
But you can switch your next default. Let's say you want to get out 5 at a time.
Can you have multiple defaults?
No, but you can just switch it. So it's like, so say for example,
I see what you're
right, and then you hit the hotkey, and then if you want 7 next time, you hit 7, and then you hit the hotkey. So you get it ready for when you want to hit it.
I don't even have squiggly line on. Oh, there.
You should, but it's on the level 2. Yeah.
There. All right.
A tilde key. Yeah. I know. I see it.
I mean, but I don't think it should be that complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
So
it is what it is.
And
though, right?
exactly. You got to work with what you got. Essentially, NVDA stuck in this chop here, guys. We got HIMS on the backside of the trend. And then sure enough, you know what position we're currently sitting in. We got Tesla still working out for us, guys, as we're climbing higher. Been in this one for quite some time. It's definitely been keeping us in this game here today. And let's see if we can get this name to really breach this in the momentum pickup. So one thing that I'm going to be worried about is that we have kind of a liquidity grab south of that, and then you get that strong rebound. Right now, we're stuck in limbo. It's just chopping around within this range. You're seeing the bid being aggressively hit. You're seeing the ask rebound immediately. So which direction? I'm not in at the top end of the range in which I would like to be, but that's fine. Like I said, we work with what we got, and sure enough, boom. Let's go. Come on, man. You could do it on this one, Sharif.
You can do it.
You can do it. Come on, hit the bid. Slap that bid. I mean, I know it's the other thing, but dang, just another rebound. So I am going against the grain. Increase on the volume to the north side. A support level right here that's acting like some American defense systems over here. Really, it's really strong right now, Sharif. So, I mean, there it is. Can't complain. We'll go through our top names, even though we haven't gone through the mag today. I mean, we got NVDA on our radar. Apple hovering around that high. Microsoft starting to come in a little bit here. We don't need to talk about that name anymore. Google hovering around the high. So you're definitely getting that push and pull in the Nasdaq, but we are in a definitive trend, and that is to the northeast. What's Broadcom been up to on today's session? At the high, so not too bad of a look right there. Meta at the highs as well. We're about to breach through some pre-market zones, so not too bad of a look whatsoever. We'll head over to our lower end of the range. How has the banks been acting? How have you been doing, JP Morgan? How have you been?
How they been doing?
Not so good.
God,
Not so good. All right, there it is. We're still down 15%. Oh my days. Who would have thought that JPM would be down 15%, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rebound anytime soon in this name. This is not looking good for us on the short here, Sharif. As we are about to breach this descending triangle, it looks like we might be sitting on the backside of this trend here momentarily, and this is what I'm referring to. This is a worst case scenario, guys. We might get stopped out, even though it's not all that bad. You take a stop out, it's just like, Joe, what are you doing? Stop shorting. Your one good trade on today is a long, and you've taken all losses on the short. Get it together. EPA is Monday.
You say stop short? You said stop shorting, but
stop shorting.
Yeah. So if I know you're not a Seinfeld fan, I know it's tragic.
Is there something along the line?
All right, I stop short. Come on, guys. If you guys know that Frank Costanza part, I stop short. Oh, baby, that is one of my favorite lies there. He is, Frank Costanza is amazing. Yeah, there. Okay, now I see what you guys are saying. All right. Guys, I don't think EONR is, that's my move. I told everybody about it. I stopped short. There you go. All right, Gary, I see what you're saying there. He stole my move, says, yes. Chaffer, shout out to my man. Kramer stole it. Yes, he did. He's a thief. I don't think he meant to do it on his wife, but I did love that. I did love that episode there, because it's a little relatable, right? Not in that way, of course, but it is. We've all got moves that we all accuse everybody of stealing. Here's the deal, guys. ANTX just continues to go. I don't have an entry on this because it's higher risk entry at these levels, but I guess that, you know, this is the best part. Just holding prior bar low. The problem is prior bar low, it's always so far removed. It gave me one opportunity that I hesitated. That was with this red candle here. The low of this candle came awfully close to the low of the prior candle, so I could have given it a tight stop, but ANTX continues to go for those who want it. SAFX, Bovin, this one keeps going as well. Unbelievable. There comes 40 pennies. This looks like a bull flag breakout. It does have, you know, aggressive wicks both ways, especially that 12 o'clock candle. But if you're able to stomach that and put in, you know, a good area of support, or sorry, your stop below a good area of support, I think you were safe. Generally, I would have put mine below 33. This one did breach 33. Not by much, though, 32.5. So if you were wise to that, SAFX definitely going, no question about that. Joe, just a suggestion, I think he means long SoFi and short MSTR. Your boy Joey Options busy, but we're going to take a quick look here at see what SoFi is doing. I know that they were a little negative this morning as a result of not being included in the S&P 500 in the next quarterly rebalancing. Anyway, down 3.4 and change. SOFI seems to have a lot of resistance, at least intraday, at around that 1840 area. A lot of moves here into 1840, 1850 with resistance. Locally, though, some higher lows, but that flat top between 18 and a third, let's say to 18 mid-40s, still unbreached. But SOFI, interesting. MSTR, again, thank you, JKL. MSTR seems to be finding support at VWAP. It did before. Look at that move here, 10.05, 10.10, and then the big move, 10.15. Here it is again with 1, 2, and now a third touch into VWAP. I'm assuming that 12.05 candle probably bamboozled the hell out of everybody because you get a double bottom off VWAP, rockets back up to 138.5, and then drops right back into VWAP. Alas, it's putting in yet a third bottoming tail candle, generally finding support at VWAP. MSTR is up 2 3/4. Keep your eye out on that one if you're interested in trading it. And then here's ETSA. ETSA is now a 2-candle, you know, I don't want to say a hold up because it's technically below VWAP, but it's in the VWAP vicinity. I think it's at exactly VWAP's price right now. That's not the move for me. I'm going to need to see a breach of that lower trend line, and then I can get into ETSA. Again, ETSA, my biggest winner on Friday, and we're going to keep a close eye out on it today. And then Turbine. Turbine is losing it here in a hurry, guys. Be careful with Turbine. This could be a short, especially if we take out that low at 1050 and 1055. I think the candle lows on both those is 534 and 535. Here we are at 539. We've lost the $0.50. We're below VWAP, and we're just barely above that double bottom. But there's also this bull flag low end range, which takes us to 510. So if you're looking for a really risk averse trade, it's below, the short's below 5, but I'm probably not going to be looking at it all the way down there. We're going to pause for a second. We're going back up to the big desk with news with Adira.
Another oil and energy moment here. What I've been kind of trying to do is wait till we have like a couple stories over a 2-3 minute period. So with that in mind, off of a catalyst I brought to you guys a couple minutes ago now, Reuters reporting that Trump is going to be reviewing options to curb oil prices. Now, apparently, I'm seeing further reporting suggesting that one of those options would be export curbs and tax waivers. I mentioned that earlier, but I'm now seeing this reported again. I also want to mention here as well, CNBC reporting that Iran is warning oil tankers to be, quote, very careful in the Strait of Hormuz. Back to you.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, guys.
Everybody's going to catch hands, Joe.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody. And you see, like, I think he's the president, not the new guy, Khamenei's son that they just elected, but there was a president who comes out either Friday or Saturday or something like that, and then he apologized to the Gulf states for all the drone attacks and basically said the Republican Guard, the Iranian Republican Guard, was kind of acting autonomously and wasn't under the leadership of...
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the leadership had been... They got clipped, and so that it was operating independently, so they were the ones firing on the Arab countries, and now you're kind of seeing it again. So it's just like, it's all over the freaking map here, man. Like, who the hell knows what's going to happen, man?
If I hit that squiggly thing, but now that this is popping up every time. Squiggly line, and then now it's popping up. How do I
What does that mean, it's popping up every time?
So, like, if I hit my L2 here, it comes up here.
Oh, you don't want it to show up there?
No.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna, okay, so you have multiple L2s for the same name?
Yeah.
I didn't know that it did that.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know that it did that.
That's all right.
Perhaps you should are they the same? Are they the same?
It's the same ticker.
Window? No. I'm talking about the window number. You know the pairing.
Is it linked to?
Yeah.
No, different links.
So it's the same. What number is that? That's 4. What's this one?
This is 1.
This one. All right, then I don't know, Joey. Got to be honest with you, brother. I didn't have that problem.
No,
but,
that's all right. That's all right, man. Don't worry about it. I mean, I'll probably just have to change the ticker, and maybe something will work. Hang in there, man. Q's looking like it finally wants to. Joey Hockey strikes again. Yeah, you know it.
Get it, Joey.
Dude, listen. I had the most simplistic system. It wasn't even funny how easy it was. Before at home.
Yeah.
It was just like it was too easy, right? Like it just made things too easy. But there it is. I'm gonna probably get stopped out here momentarily. A bounce off of 179.60 once again. I don't know. I don't think this thing is going to break down, to be honest with you. We are starting to form these lower highs, which is a positive sign. But if you have the aggressive buyers step right back in, then we might be in a little bit of trouble on this one. We can adjust this trend line a little bit here. To that to see if we're going to hold up that level. And if we continuously reject, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've been consolidating in this zone for almost a half an hour at this point, and you don't want to break down. That's going to tell me that we're probably going to go in the opposite direction there, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, and there it goes, right? We don't want to hold on to this for very much longer. If it really starts to rock and roll, then we'll have to get out of Dodge there.
625, guys. ANTX continuing to go. I mean, it's just not stopping. Right, the buying is still moving. Now the 10 EMA on the 5 is substantially higher than where it was before, almost at the $0.50 now. There it goes again into another area high, 635. We're not even close to limit up, but every time I'm looking at this one, it's got a higher low and a higher high. Obviously, there's a lot of volatility per 5-minute candle. You're going to get that when you've done about 30 million shares. And I want to say the majority of the shares just came in, man. Like the volume bars all coming in recently, I want to say. Definitely a lot more than it was doing, you know, the 10s, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then the volume really comes in quite aggressively at, I want to say, the breakout there, right at 11. Sorry, not 11:50, right at 10:45, 11. So 635 high. Continuing to watch ANTX, too extended for me to get in here with a proper risk to reward. But the other ones I'm continuing to watch, EONR. It looks like it's putting in some higher lows, but it's definitely getting some selling here in the mid-teens. So we got 16 rejection. Now we're getting a 13 rejection. If it puts more lower highs, we're going to remove it. But AZI continuing to put in that lower high trend. I don't mind these prolonged lower high trends where you can kind of draw a clean lower trend line, because that means when they get breached, they'll be super obvious, right? When they get breached, and that's usually my cue to move in, and then I give it to prior area low or bar low, really depending on the setup. But this feels like a nice looking bull flag here with a bit of a downward tilt, which is fine. A bit of a range. You want to trade it as a range, have at it, and then save a piece for the upper breach. That's what I'm looking at there. But I'm not going to execute on AZI until that big move above that lower trend line. Thirdly here, SAFX Bovin. I perceive this one to possibly have support right at the 10 EMA, 36 pennies. This is one that I would give myself a little bit more room for my stop, given what it's done on the day. I mean, the one thing you look at and you say on SAFX is there's a lot of upper and lower wicks, irrespective of what candle you're looking at. They all seem to have high and low wicks. So if that's going to be this one's characteristic, you have to trade it, within the confines of its characteristics. Otherwise, you're asking to be stopped out prematurely. So coming down into 36 pennies, I would have to give it to this bar low at 12 o'clock, the low of which is 32.5 pennies. So if you get in at 36, I would risk to 32.5. You can try to keep it a little bit below 33, but that subjects you possibly to a stop prematurely below that area wick there. So that's what I'm looking at. Looks like EONR curling back up again. If it breaches. If it breaches prior area high, which is where I was looking to go long, man. I was looking to go long at 16, but it's got to cross 16s for me to get the print. So it rejects 16 there because it doesn't cross, comes back down, holds that upper trend line, and if we make another move above 16, it'll feel a lot more bullish this time around, and hopefully my order will trigger automatically. So that's the look there as ANTX continues to trend up, Joey. OLOX losing the trend. This one seems like a short. It's now using the volume weighted average price as resistance for those who don't want to go long these small cap gappers, and you're able to get locates on OLX. OLOX is hard to short under my platform. Not saying our trading floor, just my platform here. They're not available. So, you know, make sure you're getting locates there. But a breach below this area low, the 1135 candle, the low of which is 164, probably pushes us back at least those pre-market highs, maybe into 150 or so, if not more. So that is the look on OLOX. And then this one, WTI. Ever since I put this hot garbage on, it's been bleeding its own blood, really losing VWAP. This has been a hell of a short off that $4 area, WTI. I don't even know what it's doing on the side chart. It should have been gone long ago. There goes Antics again into the ominous 666s. Good, it didn't spend that much time there. 670. Joey, yes, this thing is on the way to $7. It could be a $10 move today. 685. We're going to see 7 soon. I was trading this at 408, guys, and that was less than an hour and a half ago. Holy cow, it's 12:30 already. 408, I had an entry on this thing. It's now at 686, 690, 91. The breakout is on and $7 is incoming. Watch out for Antics. It's been making a move, but this will end at some point. Who knows where though, but ride it until it tells you it's time to go. All right, OLOX is back into 116. Sorry, EONR, pardon me, back into 116. Let's see if we can shake the seller at 116. If we can, I'll get triggered as a long. If we don't, I won't get it, and it'll be yet another higher low and a flat top at 116. Let's keep an eye out on this one.
All right, good luck there, brother. If we take some more off on that strong move there in TSLL, at least we got this kind of to offset what we lost in NVDA there. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. Outs are extremely important. I said we're getting out at the breach of the high. We get out a little bit early. What happens? A rip. We take a second attempt. You don't get the breakdown. You bounce off of the support level on multiple occasions. We're on the backside of this trend, and just before the volume started to kick in, we get out. So, I mean, aside from it being a loss, more than happy to get out when you're supposed to, and sometimes you got to make your losers look somewhat as good as your winners, right? I mean, TSLL definitely going to be our best one of the day. I'm looking at IBIT here, so not too bad of a move whatsoever. TSLL been an absolute banger today, so we'll hit that one there. But again, full disclosure, still slightly red, but that's ain't nothing to worry about. Oh man, what a battle! I was having fun. A Friday in the latter half after the show because I was slightly red and I had the breakdown, but I just got out too prematurely and I was just essentially like pushing sides. I'll pull it up here now. It's totally fine on what happened, but I had multiple good opportunities in order for me to just capitalize on the day. But just because, as Sharif was talking about earlier this morning, is that when you really increase your size, you don't think the same, and that's what you kind of want to avoid. So yeah, exactly. So it's a big time mistake, and here it is on Oracle. Even though you almost catch $1 on this move, Katina Man was short there. Never mind that Microsoft. But if I'm telling you, relatively speaking, for me, I had that hunch that the TQs were going to break down, but I just didn't execute accordingly. Why? Because I was more focused on putting on more size than actually focusing on the correct trade. And that can definitely get you into some trouble. Minnesota Trader, do you ever have such leave TSLL in your long term? Or no, it's not. I mean, you can look at it from a swing standpoint, but it's not an investment vehicle. The leverage products are not investment vehicles. because of the decay and just how much they get destroyed, right? Like, it's the most basic thing. If you see a 50 or 25% drop in the underlying, then you'll see a 50% drop in the leverage vehicle, and then that means in order for it to just get back to where it started, you need 100% return, right? And if it gets more drastic, like 30%, then you're going to really start to fall in. I mean, you can swing them for a couple of days, but they're not investment vehicles. All right, Sharif, what do you use to monitor your small caps? Sharif has a scanner that he goes through, but I'll definitely let him touch on.
Yeah, just 1 second, just because I'm just setting up a position.
I can ramble on.
Sorry,
so,
brother.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever. So there it is. We take some out on TSLL. I don't have very much left, 5% here, guys. Now we're gonna get involved in some IBIT. Let's see, man. We may as well just go with the flow. The thing is, though, Bitcoin ain't looking like much of a long here either, there, ladies and gentlemen, as this pattern is starting to form. Maybe we'll be fortunate enough to bounce off of these support levels like what's happening in NVDA. But if we want to look at the grand scheme of these things, it has been super mega hot garbage. There it is. This might be the short signal on the Nasdaq, but I've already taken my attempts on it, so I'm not going to. And USO is moving higher. So potential buying scenarios here. I'm long IBIT, still sitting in the TSLL, but it might be time to kind of sway away from these common names and maybe go to a USO and an HIMS and see if we can find any positions. At some point, I'll tell you this for free. There's zero chance that I'm hitting a shutdown today. At some point, I will close shop just to keep those losses small and just try to rock and roll. If we breach this 39 level, then I'll get out of Dodge, and then I'll have maybe 1 or 2 trades left in me before I'm just like, you know what, I'm not in sync with the market, daylight savings, maybe a little extra tired or whatever it may be, just shut it down, and I'm more than willing to do that.
I likewise, brother.
Whoa,
That's why
whoa.
What's up? Okay,
Yeah, big take.
All right, here's thank you very Zen Zombie for the $2 super chat. Sharif, what do you use to monitor your small caps? So I monitor them, if you're asking in the strict sense, on the side charts, the ones that I'm bringing in all the time. So I'll choose my favorite 8 because I got to limit them to a number, obviously. And then I'll put them on. And then I keep them on my watch list as well on the side. And then, you know, they'll come on and off depending on whether they're holding levels or what the hell they're doing, right? But the way I find them, if that's what you're asking, Zen, is using the scanner. Now, every platform comes with a different scanner. The one that I use, and they're all going to be named different things, top percentage gainers. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ones that are making a big move, okay? And I don't have much in the way of filters, okay? My filters are super simple. They're price and volume based. I'm probably going to change this, but I used to have it at $1. Then Neil convinced me to filter it down to 85 pennies so that the ones that are on the way to the dollar, I'll have 4 notice of. And then I have volume here of 251,000. That's not my standard for trading. It's just my standard for filtering. The reason I do the 251, AZI is breaking out, guys. AZI coming back into 89 pennies. So the reason 250 is what I put on there is because I just don't want the ones that are doing like 10 and 15,000 to show up, but the ones that are making a move and starting to accumulate volume, I want to have 4 notices of as well. So those are the 2 just price and volume filters that I use. I'll get to my columns in a second once we get back from Adara.
Keep an eye here on INTC Intel. This company reportedly launching its, or I guess just announcing here, it's launching its Core Series 2 processor with real-time performance. They're also expanding their Edge AI portfolio. So some product and, product and offering announcements here for INTC this afternoon. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so the columns I have here, again, these are going to be super specific to the platform that you're using, and they're not all going to be the same. So obviously I have the name of the, let me close this down so you guys can see a bit better. The name of the instrument, the price, obviously, then the change percentage. Change percentage here is calculated from either 4 a.m. onwards, or if it was trading in the aftermarket yesterday after the 4 o'clock closing print, it'll populate from there. So that is either from 4 a.m. or from 4 p.m., depending on whether this one was moving in the aftermarket or the pre-market. Then I have a next column next to it called change since open. That one is populating the percentage from 9:30 this morning onwards. So what is it up since the bell rang? And the reason I keep that on there is because some of them, they make a move in the pre-market and then they fade right after the bell. So if it's one of those ones, I want to be able to clearly see it and then filter it away, right? And then there's the gap percentage. Obviously, that's important, right? That's based upon what it opened at today versus what it closed at yesterday. So the bigger the gap, obviously, the more bullish the look. Then I have a bunch of volume columns. The regular volume on the day, for example, Antix has done 37.5 million shares, but the average volumes for ANTX, volume for ANTX, 232,000, right? So I know this one's doing RVol up the yin yang. And then I have another volume column there. This is called short-term volume for the 5 minutes. And the reason I keep that there, EONR is going to stop me out. It's coming down into that area low. Let's see if it holds up here. I have my stop in place. But short-term volume tells me whether this one was doing volume earlier or volume later, right? And that's what I want to know. Is the volume coming in now? Just by looking at the scanner, without even having opened up the charts or anything to that effect, I'm able to kind of know that right from the get-go. Then the shortable column. I don't short these on my platform, obviously. I'm not trading on my platform. I'm trading on the firms. But this one tells me if it's easy to borrow or not. And if it's dark green, that means it's not available. If it's light green, means it is available. So the light green ones gives me an understanding about whether or not it's easy to borrow for the shorts. And then I have a column over here. It's the spread. So I can immediately tell upon looking at the name what the spread is. For example, on Antix, the spread is opening to 4 pennies now tightening back up to 2. So I can kind of get an idea right away. Is this one that I want to keep my eye on, or is the spread of such a nature that it doesn't fit my trading profile? And then the range. This column is new. This shows me here, given the length of the rectangle, how close we are to the end of the sell, whether or not the price action for the name is near the highs or the lows. So for example, this one over here, which is LRHC, this price action is much closer to the lows than it is to the highs, whereas, for example, CAMP, much closer to the highs than it is to the lows. So that gives me an idea just visually there about where the price action is, and so I can have an understanding of what the name has to offer. So I get a little nuanced with the columns, but the essential factor is to look for the top percentage gainers. That's step number one. And then if you want to have some volume filters and price filters as well, they certainly help, Joe.
Absolutely. Yeah, Gaurav, I agree, man. I do have some solid days where we come back from essentially the dead. But I'm not even close. Like, guys, I'm at like full disclosure, I'm half a shutdown. And I'm like, okay, we got this little bit of Tesla rolling here. It's just like, why am I going to participate in this nonsense? So IBIT, looking for the long, does a flush, and then you're right back towards your entry. Could this be a good opportunity to re-engage? Yeah. Do I want to just go pedal to the floor and full throttle this? Absolutely. But I also want to care about the month and the rest of the week, considering it's a Monday. And I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities. We'll just be sure to hit heavy when the time is right. But I think we can see a little bit of a rebound here in Bitcoin as the market is still hovering around its highs. I think there's going to be a half-decent move there. So a nice move. Just, again, like, I don't understand what's up with this year. It just wicks everybody out at the top end of the range, breaks through the support level, and then off to the races it goes. So look at the volume spike right there, too. That's very intriguing and interesting, what we got going on. But as for USO, guys, USO, not too bad, consolidating around the lows. There's HIMS, once again, that's the name that we're looking at. And then I'm glad that we tried the shorts earlier in the day in the Nasdaq at the breach of this support level, but then you get a nice strong rebound. So we'll see where we're at from a daily. Once again, we've taken a look at it on multiple occasions, but a lot of green up in here, okay? So maybe a buying of this support could be something solid, and then you have a really tight risk, even where you're currently sitting at, right? Considering so, if it breaches, then it's like, all right, let's get out of that, and the chances of you getting a better price are relatively high. So not a horrible look in the overall market, considering, I know Michael Naas was talking about it this morning, you're down 5%, like boo-hoo. That is nothing. If you go to some of the other mega cap names, and this is what I'm talking about here. So if we compare the two, so you're down 17%, right? 3x leverage. That's why you don't want. That's why you don't use leverage derivatives as an investment vehicle. But if we head over to the softies of the world, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, and we've seen it from an intraday perspective. Considering the overall market, it's only down 6% off of its highs. If Microsoft wants to rebound aggressively, that's, in my opinion, that's most definitely going to send the market to the higher end of the range and even potentially break through. And we head over to the Apples of the world, right? Like, you're still off of the previous highs. And it's not a little bit, 10%. So if these guys are like, you know what, we're gonna rally aggressively, then watch out. Same thing with Meta, off aggressively off the highs. I mean, we're talking about almost 20% here, 19.5. So if these mega cap names really want to get going and say, hey, we're done with the selling, it can definitely drive to the market to new all-time highs if they decide to rebound.
All right, man. Watching ANTX, finding support at 6, just breached prior bar high. Let's see if this one's got the juice to go again, and here it goes again. Into 632. This is taking out prior bar high, but obviously still well below the high of the day of 691. Continuing to watch here. Good strength on this one as the buyers step in quite aggressively on ANTX. Still not at the $0.50 yet. Thanks, Zombie, for the multiple super chats, brother. One more question. What program or platform any scanner will do? I mean, obviously some have a bit more nuance than others, really depending on which one you get. But the general theme is to kind of look for the pre-programmed ones that say top percentage gainers or whatever they're called. You could be any form synonym there, and then look for that. And yes, thanks for the help. I learn something new every day. Shout out to you, my man. I hope you print out multiple storms, and welcome to the world of small cap gapper trading, baby. It's a lot interesting. All right, continue to watch your antics. I did get stopped out of EONR as this one did lose trend, and it is. Why does this one look like, oh, camp is why, because I flipped it. That one is losing trend. It lost that area low, so it's got a higher low, but it's also got a lower low. So it kind of is doing the speakerphone pattern, and that's not one that I'm looking for there. ANTX is just rocketing up right now, though. Right back into that 6.5, still with some lower highs though. But CAMP, CAMP, halted up 67.62%. This is an NQ name, so we're going to be able to see this one and the imbalance during the halt. So here it is. It's open. It's at 663. Support possibly at 6. 1 penny spread for now. Let's see how this one trades. 704 high. Prior bar low, 613. VWAP, $6. 10 EMA on the 5, 587. Be on the lookout here, 630 coming in. The spread's opening up, and here we go, $6. This is limit down. No, 607 is limit down. So false halt there, limit down. Watch out for this one. It's losing it in a freaking hurry. 704 now, down to 615. You could get in here and give it to 6, but you have to be careful with the spread because it's opening up. 36 now on the ask, 21 on the bid, tightening up again. It's been as wide as the one I just described right now and as tight as 1 penny. So CAMP halted up at 704, coming back down now, though, into the low 6s, 620-ish area. Watch out here for this one. So let's see what this situation. So say we get in at around 633, right? We want to risk this amount, so 633. We would have to stop out current bar low. That takes us to 607. So let's say 604. All right, so that's good there, all right? So we'll keep an eye out on this one, and we'll see if it's warranted to get back in. But for now, we're sending you to the big desk with Adara.
Just to let you guys know, President Trump announcing that he'll be holding a news conference at roughly 5:30 p.m. Eastern, so be aware that's going to be happening. Also, I mean, while I'm here, there isn't much of a move at all on this, but just be aware, Boeing competitor Airbus announcing some of their deliveries and orders for January to February. Keep an eye on BA potentially for sympathy or antipathy. It's not really moving on this at all, though. Back to you.
What's going on, Joey?
Good, yeah, same old, man. We're sitting in this TSLL. We're going to let this one ride here. I think we can even head towards this pre-market pivot. What's the actual underlying saying? we'll figure that out here because, yeah, I think we're going to be on that trajectory at this point, guys. We're still negative on the session. We're down 1.5, but the way the current market is moving right now, and I kind of agree with you, Los Pollos, there's NVDA. I'm glad that we got out of this one. You've breached this previous pivot right at the open, and then you climb a little bit higher, all the way up to 181. And what did I do when I was shorting? And this is why I essentially had no issue of getting out a little bit early or when I was supposed to. And we're gonna break that down right now, okay? So I was thinking short, it didn't work out. I know a lot of people in the chat saying, Joe, sell this, buy that, sell it this time. Okay, anyways, aside from that, really, you gotta trade on your own, right? Like you can't be a backseat, what do they call the people who?
Backseat drivers?
Yeah, backseat driver, you know what I mean?
Armchair quarterback?
Yeah, an armchair quarterback. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Absolutely.
come on, you gotta be the captain of your own ship. So essentially what I had going on here is like, there was nothing really stopping NVDA climbing up into 185, okay? So like 185 is that next potential resistance low zone from what the actual supply is showing us here on the options chain. This is small potatoes, like 10,000 contracts. Are you kidding me? That's nothing for this thing to chew up. 13,000 contracts? That's breakfast. This isn't even breakfast. This is like your snack in the morning for this name. You want to run into those higher zones, and I think that's going to start at 185, and then that's definitely going to act as a potential resistance zone. Now, we have witching on the 20th. Let's pull that up. And this is where we're going to start to see an increase in size. Holy smackers, this is crazy. 268,000 contracts at 200? That's insane. In 11 days? I think that might be the largest size I've ever seen on NVDA. That is an insane amount of open interest. But where is that next zone? 123,000 at 190? I think we stay below this, and you're going to be collecting substantially more at this zone. So what do we want to do? Hide a little bit behind that? No problem. 192, you're collecting 166, and if I'm going to do a bear call spread, I'm going to write this and then the 197 fives. I might do that, to be honest with you. That's not horrible whatsoever. Collecting 80 per contract combination, that's a pretty good setup for something that's going to be expiring in 11 days. But heading back to this week's expiration cycle, as I was looking more into it, I'm like, there is really nothing stopping us right now from climbing a little bit higher. And that's kind of been the narrative on NVDA today, Sharif.
All right, man. DTCK, watching this one as it works its way back above VWAP. Very good strength here. Found support at around 2 single digits, 207, 210, trying to work back above prior bar. It did breach VWAP on a wick basis, really hasn't closed above it quite yet. I'm talking about the candle that just closed at 1240, the high of which is 262, current bar high 259. Be on the lookout there, nice rounding pattern. The only one we're involved in here is SAFX, and it does seem like it might be losing trend here, and that does concern me. So our stop is below 33, right around 32.5. Be on the lookout there. There was some wicks to show that there was buying in and around that zone, but it does feel like the lower high trend now is in control, and we can't seem to breach any prior bar highs. And it's also changing its characteristic, right? It was very wicky before, and that's since kind of stopped, right? Now it's closing or opening. Sorry, it's closing at around the low or the high of the candle that it's trading at. So it's not really showing that kind of, volatile characteristic quite well like it was showing earlier. So that is something to look out there for. CAMP. Tried to get into this one, wet the beak at 6.5, took out half the position there, and then got stopped out at 604 for the breach of the volume weighted average price. So we give back a little bit on CAMP there, initially profitable, then it dropped down. It is halted down, I should say, right now, having halted at $5.68. So be on the lookout there. I'm looking for, there goes DTCK. This could be the breakout now, guys. There is the move. Good look here on DTCK. Kept a close eye on this one. Let's take off ETSA. DTCK on the NQ. There it is, 677. There was some resistance here initially. I see you, Papacito, but I have to execute on this trade, so you're going to have to give me a moment here. So 280 current bar high. Let's see, so current bar low By the way, the low is there 267, currently showing 283. Good strength on this one. Joe, I got to send it to you because I need to calculate all my things here.
Yeah, man. Type your thing in. We got rough hands going on right now. AOF for everyone who is aware of that. Yeah, I appreciate that. No, who's it? Tendies? Trendies or something? Trendy Gawks? I think you may be saying Trendy God. No, I mean, hey, man, I appreciate it. That's why I got it when I'm supposed to be. You got to understand, like, I got to punch the keys and do things on my own and kind of just go on my own narrative, right? I appreciate the help, truly. But anyways, we take the short and we get out when we were supposed to. We weren't bank holding or anything along those lines. So that's kind of been the nature of today's beast. And same thing with IBIT. It climbs a little bit higher here. We unfortunately got, as soon as we enter, a couple minutes later, we get stuck in this liquidity grab. So that was a good time. And then the short, that's a break-even trade essentially right there. But it's sometimes, if I added more size on this, which I had the hunch that I should have, I just didn't. At the time, it did eliminate more than half of my losses. And I wasn't sitting on a good ratio on today's session. But that one win is what really kept us in this game here. And we're still sitting on it a little bit. And that's what you need. Sometimes you have that lower accuracy on certain days, but the wins are just substantially larger on most days. You obviously want that. Doesn't always work out in that case, but that's the aim. That's the goal you want to try and aim for. And I'm fortunate and I'm happy that we did get the ability to take advantage of this Tesla trade. Yeah, I don't know if, like, see, here we are, right? This is a little bit tougher. I mean, I was in right at VWAP a little bit north of that. I'm thinking that we were in a safe place. Considering we're playing with pennies and everything along those lines, I'm like, oh, okay, we got stuck in that flush. And I had to get out just in case that downward trajectory continued. And if you look at it from a 5-minute, if you ask me, I think this is kind of a head and shoulders type pattern, Sharif. I don't know how you feel about that one. I know you're concentrating and stuff. But I think if you guys agree with me, does that look like a 5-minute head and shoulder? Shoulder one, not the cleanest, head, shoulder two. So that's typically a bearish pattern. And when you get that flush through the support levels, it's like, oh, okay, maybe we're going to continue, especially if the volume and the momentum is really starting to pick up. You have to take those things into consideration. Was I wrong? And is it continuing to climb higher? Absolutely. So I got caught in a fake out, and that's the nature of the beast sometimes. Other than that, we're sticking in our same name. I would love an add opportunity. If I see a clean flush to the downside, I think that we can recover. Considering we're only down 1.5% here on Tesla, strong flush. Let's add some size because this has been the bad boy that has been working for us throughout the whole day.
Yeah, it is. It's down 1.5%. I think it's faring worse than all the other Mag 7. Yeah, Amazon, not a distant second, down 1 1/3. Meta down 1 1/5. Softy down 0.4. Apple green, Google green. Google and Nvidia are the greenest of the bunch, at least for the moment. So continuing to watch here, got into DTCK, looking for continuation. It looks like it's going to be a topping tail candle. So no follow through on this one, at least quite yet, coming into 77s. I've also got this one, SAFX, coming back into 35, 36, but it does also feel like it's a thick trade. Very little in the way of continuation for the longs, guys, and just got stopped at a DTCK as this one did drop down. Topping tail candle. I don't know why it did that. That shouldn't have done that, actually. It was supposed to breach current bar low. Current bar low is 66. I don't know how I ended up getting wicked out there. So probably a bit of a typo on my part, but keeping an eye here on DTCK. I still like the trend. Current bar high, as I said, 88. So keep an eye out on that, but it's coming back quite aggressively now. Let's keep an eye out on that one. I'm also keeping an eye, as I said, on AZI. I've had very little to do on this one. It's been quite a prolonged downtrend, but I want to mention that this was a bit of a bamboozler as well, because it has kind of this very, very clear downward channel, and then all of a sudden, look at that, pops up, retests that 89 penny high, goes up to 88 and change, and then it drops right back down into the channel. So I don't think this one is quite done yet in its long area of consolidation, so be on the lookout there. ANTX is continuing to sell off. It's uninterrupted lower highs. This candle was a bamboozler, though, 1240 candle. But if generally you're still putting in lower highs, you've lost 6. 525 is where VWAP is at. I'd be looking for a VWAP hold there initially, especially if it loses the $0.50. There was a little bit of consolidation at the $0.50. You had about 15 minutes worth of consolidation there, so something else to look out for. Not much in the way of anything else. Bovin says PURR is moving up. Let's have a look at PURR. I haven't had an eye on that, probably in the pennies. Oh no, it's $5. What is this one up on the day? It is up 20 and change. Is it light on volume? Is that why? What do we got? 5.25 million shares, which is not too bad. PURR, I like that 5 to 505 area above in. That's the breakout area. You can kind of see that long area of consolidation. And then you get a big green candle to take out that level. Other than that, I don't have much else going on. I'm seeing that AZI is trying to make another move here into 80 pennies, but still obviously within the range. CAMP is also coming back up, but that one is also the bamboozler in chief, so I'm unlikely to execute on that one either. The ones I'm going to focus on in the afternoon are going to see whether DTCK can kind of hold this area breakout. I want to say from 240 to 250, even though it has this ugly topping tail candle that caught me offside. But if it starts to curl back up, we're going to give this one another try. Also, definitely looking for ANTX to come into that volume weighted average price, especially if it loses the $0.50. We'll be buyers there. EONR, this could have resistance at around 105 to 107 based upon the wicks that it had there. They were all finding support at around 106, 105 with the closing prints all around that 110. It's trying to recover above the dollar now. If it comes into that flat bottom, it could be a short off that, but that's not exactly an A+ setup either. So those are the ones I'm looking at the moment. CAMP is going to lose its spot on the side chart. It's just awfully volatile and kind of a little all over the place here. So that doesn't work for me. ANTX is kind of the A+ setup, but definitely in a bit of a pullback now. So if you're more long oriented, I think this one's got some time still, Joey.
Right on, brother. Yeah, I mean, avoid it if it's not doing what you want. Then we hold no loyalty to stocks. We move on. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, took a couple attempts on some names. It's like, all right, not in sync. Let's find something else here. And that's kind of the narrative I got going on right now. Aside from Tesla, a single entry, right? Sometimes that's all it takes is just a single entry, and then you have the ability to put it on a half-decent trade. So not too bad here on TSLA. TQ still hovering around those highs, guys. Not too bad of a look. That is now positive. So the Nasdaq just a little bit under that, about 1/5%, I think it'd be roughly sitting at. It is starting to come in off of those highs, but you can see what we can see on the 5-minute time frame here on the triple Qs is that we're starting to stair step lower. Right, so not the strongest of selling pressures. HIMS is starting to break down. This is like a triple top almost around that area. This was a resistance zone. You can see from the pre-market support level now acting as prior resistance. We've had multiple attempts, and then you also have the volume weighted average price correlating with that specific zone. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult for it to breach that specific level and then head a little bit more north. I thought you would see some more continuation in today's session, considering I thought this was a weight weighing on the stock, but doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. You have that initial reaction late last night. Obi was talking about it. He was well asleep. I'm surprised by it. I thought Obi would be up, obviously being sarcastic, trading that, but nice call out. You come back this morning and then no real no continuation essentially in the strong move that we experienced from in the blue ocean sailing of the seas. Adara, what do you have for us?
Hey,
lots to keep an eye on here with regards to oil. Once again, Emmanuel Macron, who is, of course, the leader of France, saying that he thinks the Iran war could, quote, perhaps last several weeks. And Iran also reportedly warning that they're ready for a long conflict. That's reported by CNN. Citing a senior Iranian official. So we're going to get the sense here that we're going to get a pretty long conflict potentially here in Iran. With that in mind, you do have to keep an eye on USO and these other oil plays, as well as the market in general. And with these oil plays, another way to look at these, as we mentioned a couple times today, that would also be these airlines like AAL or cruise lines like CCL. So there's not just one way to play this conflict. There are many different avenues that you can go down here. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. Yeah, I'm just reading some notes here. I'm sure when Sharif gets back, we're going to start the news. So some interesting things we can talk about on that front and see what we got from the bigger picture of things. Yeah, so there's an aggressive pullback in the Naas there. The good old Nazi. Let's see what we got on our watch list. We can go with some options chain. Let's see what Tesla's been up to. Why are we continuously knocking on the door of this specific zone? I don't even have it up on my side chart. Who shall I remove? All right, yeah, let's do... No, I like HIMS. Let's do USO. There's a greater opportunity. Obi, did you have to order shorts for HIMS? Did you have to order shorts for HIMS? IMS. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So yeah, let's take a look at Tesla and see why we keep knocking on the door of this 390 level. Maybe we got some form of supply that we can take a look at on the options chain, which I think will be very interesting. And this is why we want to continuously gauge it. We didn't get quite up to 85. Matter of fact, we're still 6 points away from that. But who knows what can happen throughout the week. You may have a little bit of a sustained continued move. But as for today's expiration, 93.90, nothing really there. But what we want to really take a look at is this week's expiration. 400, there's a little bit of supply. As we head higher in strikes, you can see at 410, 23,000. That's going to be probably the highest. But where I'm going to suspect that we have a little bit more is on this expiration. So 410, once again, with 35,000 contract currently open. Adair, what do you have for us?
I have Joby and Archer both on watch here, both of them spiking higher, but already giving back some of that push to the upside. Department of Transportation selecting proposals for air taxi pilots, including New York. That's going to be Archer and Joby. They are among the companies that are involved in the DOT pilot project. So again here, JOBY and ACHR, both amongst the companies that are going to be involved in this DOT air taxi pilot program. There is going to be one of these programs within New York. Back to you.
So there's Joby, guys. We'll take a look at this one here. Not too bad of a look whatsoever. Inverted hammer candle, though. So selling, we have that move higher, but then you see selling pressure kick right back in. So I think this might be something to keep an eye out for. If it breaks the lower end of the range, maybe you'll get a little bit of a move back to the volume-weighted average price. ACHR, we'll take a look at this one. Same narrative and very identical price action prints. If you break the top end of this candle, you might see an additional squeeze higher to 650. If you break lower, then watch out for that support level to come into play. All right, so really nice call outs of volatility and volume spikes. Be patient on the entries on this one, and then see if you can just go with the flow. With the amount of volume that comes in and came in exactly like this, we should be able to find a definitive direction after this.
All right, there goes SAFX holding here from 35 3/4. There goes into the high of the day. 40 1/3. This is where we topped out last time. This 40 penny area is where the shorts and or the profit takers have earmarked as kind of their line in the sand, at least intraday. More all-time highs here, or all-time, relax, Sharif. Intraday highs. 2R for me, 44 pennies. 3R, 48. Patience, wetting the beak here, saving the great majority of the position for 2R. Again, 2R takes me to 44. That's an issue for me, not you guys. So depends on where you're getting in. Pardon me. Obviously, I'd like to have a bias here that this one does maneuver up to 50 pennies, given that it's at that 40 and change. Let's see if this one can kind of catch the wind under its sail and rocket back up there. Pack in the patience. Don't want to take out too much too quickly here, but very alive to the fact that there is a 40 penny seller. And here we are again, dropping below 39.5 now with essentially a 41 penny high, 40.95. That's the intraday high. Here we are back into 40s, selling at 40. I'd like to see this one at around 45, as I mentioned. 2R for me takes me to 44. Let's go ahead and put in the bulk of the shares at 44. Let's see if it gets up there or what the situation is going to be. Scott, check out the possible reversal on TPET, TPET. Let's see what that one is up to. Puro. TPET, okay. Yeah, it looks like it's catching a bit of a move, Scott. 173 low, trading into 184, but I'd say that this is pretty an intact downtrend. There's got to be covering here, which pulls you into the 10, maybe at the deepest the 20 EMA, which is currently showing me 88s. Something to look out for there on TPET. Definitely gapped up, but you know, as Joey was talking about USO, kind of dropping off a little bit here. It's down. It's USO, guys, is down 4.25% since that morning bell rang. It's up 5% on the day, but it's down 4.4% since the bell rang. So trend here, obviously not on the side of oil or these oil names. Let's keep an eye out on that. Pretty Panda says RLMD. Let's have a look there. Movement back into the volume weighted average price. Pretty 6.5 seller. I like the downtrend break. prolonged area of consolidation, not exactly appetizing, having that area low below the volume weighted average price. I'd like to see it above that pre-market high. You know, if it doesn't quite make it up into that high there at 847, let's say 850, I'd be looking for the breach of the 815 candle, the high of which there is 718, so say 7 and a fifth, 720, just to breach that area high, but I see it making the move here into 6.5. There goes SAFX into another area high, 41.77. It's not cleanly above 40 pennies. It's just not, okay? The selling is coming in at around, you know, almost every level here at around 40. So I'm waiting for a 44 move. Let's see what we get. ANTX also showing some possible support here, some buying coming in at around the $0.50. As I mentioned to you, my first bias was a holdup around the $0.50, simply because that 12 o'clock, 12:05, and 12:10 candle consolidated at around the $0.50. We got the breakout, the big boy breakout at 12:10. Fair. And it comes down, very prolonged area of downtrend, having made the high at 12.25. It is now 106. Unbroken downtrend right now, but you're getting some bottoming tail candles. What I'd like to see is an aggressive move, a green candle closing above this lower high trend line here, and ideally a move and a close above 6. Right? We knew 6 was going to be a resistance level given that it's the whole dollar. And it definitely was selling at 6, both when we were below it and after we got above it, we dropped back down and we started using 6 as resistance. So ANTX, definitely in focus for me, but it's going to have to set up in the right way. It's going to be me focusing on SAFX right now. Let's see how this one does, but we're going to go back up to the big desk with Adara.
Keep an eye potentially in some of these finance names here and potentially names in the fintech space. Fitch Ratings saying that they believe that the cyber risk for U.S. public finance is going to be elevated due to the Iran conflict. So keep an eye, I guess, potentially on this finance space. Not necessarily likely to move anything, but worth noting. I also have more news kind of in that oil space with regards to the Middle East. President of Iran saying that producers will be supported and the import of essential goods will be facilitated. That's according to Al Jazeera. So we've got some comments coming in here from the president of Iran. Back to you.
Yeah, Joey.
Yes, sir, man. There's Tesla, the market starting to come back in. I wouldn't say overly aggressively, but an increase in volume as we break down. IBIT bouncing again, almost right off the volume weighted average price there, guys. Sure enough, boom, at 39.10s. Now climbing back into this north end of this resistance zone. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'd still be sitting in this position, but we just got caught. Like, what are the chances of that, Sharif? A minute later, you just get caught in this liquidity grab, and then it decides to climb a little bit high. No, it is what it is. So maybe if you're a little bit more patient, you can also re-engage as well. But I also mentioned the fact that, like, hey, let's take it easy and wait for some later opportunities. I told you on Friday, even though I did finish slightly red, I had a bunch of fun just like kind of grinding, because that's typically what happens after the show. I'll sit around until 3 o'clock and then wait from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock and late for those later opportunities, latter half opportunities where you're just literally risking a couple pennies and trying to just grab cents here and there. I don't get the same narrative and the same feel in the middle of the day. I want to wait until the imbalance is coming out, which can offer some good opportunities as well. So yeah, let's take a look at this here, guys. Okay, we'll look at Tesla right after we get back from Midday.
I have to bring this up here. NET and CrowdStrike both dropping a little bit. This could have to do with the fact that we're seeing reports that OpenAI is buying Prompt Food. That's going to be an AI security startup rather that's used by large enterprises. Apparently, they're planning on folding its tech into OpenAI Frontier to help companies test, red team, and monitor AI agents. So you've got the agent angle, you've got the cybersecurity angle. Either way, NET and CRWD both dropping in the minutes after this was released. Back to you.
And my boy CrowdStrike not doing so good there, Sharif. All right, we'll head over to the options expiration cycle and take a look at what we got going on with HIMS. We have the 13th expiration, but there's nothing really going on. But here it is. You're going to see a lot of size across the board, and this can be really telling of potential directions leading up into this date. This is 2 trading weeks away. $26, considering so, this is almost 6 times the size of what we have a little bit lower. So 6 times then at the money, essentially right there at that $26 mark. So maybe we hover a little bit south of those specific levels. Same thing, we'll go across the board. Google typically doesn't have that much options activity. You want to look at American Airlines? That's how you're feeling, Fabian? You're feeling 6 months put, 6-month put. Okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at. Just with the increase in oil, give yourself a little bit of room. We can definitely get behind that, Fabian, and see what we got in American Airlines. At the money is your best bet. They're not overly expensive, so just understand that. But I think with this, considering once oil prices start to level out, that trade may not necessarily come into play. But the puts aren't expensive there. The at the money, looking at $173 or $231 for something that's slightly in the money there. So not too bad. We'll take a look at the chart too, Fabian, because now you haven't kind of caught my interest on what AAL is doing on a daily, right? Because this can tell us a lot. We just want to go with the flow. Oops, that's Allstate. We don't want that. AAL, what are we doing with this over here on the daily? Straight to the downside. Let's see how this candle forms, Fabian. Other than that, you might be onto something, considering I know you're in the options game these days.
Bang. Cool beans. Sorry, concentrating. Sorry, guys.
Where's that from, Cool Beans?
I don't know, man. My sister, bro.
She knows.
Weird-ass California speak.
No, a lot of people say Cool Beans, man.
Yeah, well, probably from there, man. I don't know, man. Leave me alone. All right, keeping an eye. All right, here, SAFX coming back down, bro. Come on. 41.79 high, coming back down into 38 and change. I'm also keeping a close eye here on Antix. It's a triple bottom low into the 5.5 area. I think that this is okay. I got to send it to you, Joe, because I got to set up on Antix here. Sorry,
I don't even know what Hot Rod is, to be honest with you. Hot Rod movie. Oh, is that with that dorky guy, man, who does the not Daredevil, but what's that one famous Daredevil? The guy who flew? No, the guy who jumped the Grand Canyon. What was his name again? You know, on the motorcycle. Yeah, it's not coming to me. Pardon? No. The guy who, Evel Knievel. Yeah. He's like a wannabe one of that. So that is funny. Yeah, Evel Knievel. Anyways, that's a difficult one. Probably one of the most common names on the. I don't know about that. Anyways, I'll be quiet and we'll continuously look at some stocks here. Fabian, onto AAL. What's Palantir been up to on the session? You can load, a little bit of choppy, but some indecision prints off of the lows. Maybe you get a little bit of a bounce here, starting to form somewhat of a triangle, consistent lower highs, but we do have that support base right at 153.68, which isn't bad whatsoever. Now, if you're playing that range, and I'll actually give it to, even though I tell him good trade all the time, what I notice within his trading is that he's exceptional at trading ranges. Like if the stock's not necessarily directional, he's really good at getting in at key low levels and then just playing the top end of the range, reloading at the lower end of the range. And I noticed that on a couple of his stocks, and I've noticed it for quite some time. So congratulations.
Good job, Katina,
and really nice work on that, Katina, man. Gets in and gets into the nitty gritty because the detail is extremely key. And for someone who looks for a little bit larger of a move, smaller shares, a larger move, Katina, man, putting on shares and looking for just the ebb and flow. And if he's fortunate enough to catch the breakout, then he's already positioned really well at the lower end of the range. So yeah, I like what he's been doing on that one. Really good look. And I think it was on Palantir today that he was just playing the ebb and flow, and even on the TQs. He short a couple of times, just grabbing lower end, and then when it breaks, he's at a dodge looking for something else.
All right. SAFX coming back into that, I want to say one of the breakout areas, which was 38 pennies. You could see all the resistance that it had there, cleared it into 40, made another higher high into 42-ish, 41.79 technically. So let's keep an eye out on this one. SAFX still holding up, but it's not the best looking chart. Now, I also want to mention that I got back into ANTX. I'm looking for here what I perceive to be kind of 1, 2, 3. It could be some short covering. It hasn't really broken trend that aggressively. We've got 73s on. Now, here's my move on on ANTX, excuse me. So we're in at 73. My 2R takes me to 631, and my 3R takes me to 659. So that's what I'm going to be watching out for as it's curling up into the 80s. We don't have a lot of shares this time, like what we took in the morning with this one, but I'm definitely putting in a little bit here just to wet the beak, so to speak, at 88. So let's see if it can kind of maneuver up there. Well, I'm looking for an aggressive $6 break, but you know, this one, the best trade could be past this one. So we're going to pack the patience on ANTX. This one could be bamboozling, right? Because the shorts could be in control here. We know they've been in control since 1225, since we made that area high, right? Now, we're above VWAP. We held the $0.50, but we're not exactly rocketing up above the upward trend line. We're above it, but not by much. So let's keep an eye out there. I've given it to the area low, which takes me into about the $0.50. So let's see what this one has to offer us, okay? Holding still here on SAFX, as this one is continuing to hold back into 40 pennies, goes SAFX. So here it is again, trying to make that move above 41.79. That is the high. And I said very little about this one. I'm cruising for a bruise in here, trading DTCK, but it looks like it really wants to reclaim that volume weighted average price and possibly move back into 290. So if that's what it does, I want to be on the participating end of this one. We're going to risk very little below this area entry over here and see what we gonna get on that. Keeping an eye here on SAFX, there it is, back into the high. 2R for me, guys, takes me to 44. There's a huge seller at 42 that we can't shake. So 42 coming in as resistance again, this time though with a higher low, continuing to watch. 42 pennies is the high of the day, looking for a breach there, and then a possible squeeze into 44s. It's probably not going to happen all at once, if it happens at all, because we can't seem to shake the seller at 42. Back now to ANTX. There's 88s. There's the print. We're still holding the great majority of this one for 2R. There's 92. Here comes 6. 6 could be trouble, okay? 6 could be trouble on ANTX, so watch out. I'm going to take a bit off here, but we're going to save the majority of the position for a possible breach of that $6 area. So curling a little bit here, but by no means, in the clear. Let's see if it can breach 6, and if it breaches 6, where are we looking there? But there goes SAFX into another area high. Oh, come on, 43.86. On SAFX. We're going to take it out here, and there it goes. Boom, that's 2R on SAFX. So that's a good trade. Okay, here we go. We're packing the patience. We're still holding some here. Oh, no, I got it out. Sorry, at 2X. Packing the patience on the other ones, I should say. ANTX. That was a mistake. I didn't mean to take out the entire thing there on SAFX. That's kind of just having to distribute my attention a little bit there between several things. But anyway, keeping an eye here on ANTX, as this one is putting in a topping tail candle, a dangerous topping tail candle into that $6 area, and that could be trouble because it has a 3-candle green setup, but the problem is it's coming into that predictable area of resistance at $6 and not clearing. That concerns me. Let's see what this one has to offer. We're going to Adara, and then we're going to start the news segment.
So to let you guys know here, USO, surprisingly, is going to continue to be on watch here. NBC reporting that Trump said it's too soon to talk about seizing Iran's oil, but then we have at the same time the White House confirming earlier reports suggesting that Trump is in fact reviewing, quote, all credible options with regards to oil prices. So too soon to say about seizing Iran's oil, though he is apparently reviewing these oil pricing options. Apparently, he left this prospect open with regards to acquiring Iranian oil as the U.S. proceeds with their mission here in Iran. We also have U.S. oil, a little bit of a push higher here. I'm seeing some other comments as well from the foreign minister of Iran saying, quote, Iran has many surprises in store to respond to the U.S. plots. What are these surprises? I do not know, but either way, yeah, it seems like there could be more geopolitical ongoings here in Iran. Back to you.
All right, we're going to Sia.
Let's talk about news for today. So Nvidia-backed AI data center Nscale here has raised $2 billion. The AI infrastructure has raised $2 billion in a Series C funding round, and the round was led by Aker ASA and 8090 Industries that included participation from NVDA, along with many major investors and known names like Citadel, Dell, Jane Street, Lenovo, Nokia, Astra Capital, Linden Advisors, and Point72. And this startup was founded in 2024. It focuses on building vertically integrated AI infrastructure. Company also operates data centers across the UK, Iceland, US, Norway, and Portugal. And CEO of the company, Josh Payne, has said that the boom is driving what could be the largest infrastructure rollout in AI history and in human history. Also, a quick update from the company is that they appointed 3 new directors today. Sheryl Sandberg, the co-founder of Sandberg Bernthal Venture Partners, Susan Decker, the CEO and founder of Rafter, a community experience platform, and Nick Clegg, a current general partner at Hero Capital. And the startup has expanded its partnership with Microsoft, and a deal was reported to generate up to $14 billion in business for the company.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there, Sia. Thank you. Yeah, as for the Microsoft deal, they're looking to build a supercomputer, which will be extremely interesting. And we talk quite often about the lack of AI build-out that we've seen in Europe, and I think this is a good start. I mean, they've already been building things, but with the partnerships here, there's multiple. They're also signing a deal with OpenAI to establish a data center in Norway. So this is a continuous build-out, and we're seeing a little bit more. And if we're talking about the overspend in the States, and even in other countries, you can still see the demand here, considering that the European Union is essentially still looking to have some form of a competitive nature with their specific build-out. So I like what these guys are doing, starting a build-out with Norway, deals with Microsoft, deals with NVDA, and I guess most importantly, the belle of the ball right now, that's going to be OpenAI. Yeah,
that's it's an interesting look there, Joe, for sure.
Oh, one more thing there.
Yeah,
14.6 after this funding round, $14.6 billion valuation.
Yeah, which is definitely not bad at all. Definitely keeping an eye on that. What do I have to say about this one? All right, keeping a look. They've recently secured several large partnerships, major tech companies, as you mentioned, $14 billion valuation. They've expanded their partnership with Microsoft. Yeah, I gotta just be honest with you, I wasn't really concentrating on this one, and we'll just go to the next story with that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We're gonna, give me 1 second right over here. Yeah, we're going to talk about Citi. Citi analyst Atif Malik has lowered estimates for Apple, and the revision is reflecting a sharp increase in DRAM prices. Citi has also estimated the memory price could spike roughly 140 basis points of gross margin headwinds in this year alone. And the firm is expecting Apple to absorb part of the cost pressure while maintaining a strong product demand. Also, the forecast 1.3% iPhone shipment growth in 2026, with total shipments that are expected to reach around 246 million units.
Obviously, I'm involved in Apple. It's my largest position, so this concerned me. I made a very clear point to you guys that I was worried about the shortage of RAM and how it would affect Apple. So obviously, I had to do some research into this. Apple, at least for the moment, is shielded. Here's what's going on. So, number one, they do these LTA, long-term agreements, okay, where they secure the price of RAM, NAND, DRAM, whatever you want to call it, into the future. Apple's contracts expire in the second half of this year, at least at the current price. So they're shielded from the inflationary aspect of a RAM, at least for the second half. Now, that doesn't put the 17 Pro Max into concern. Where it does cause concern is for the 18. But as we know, of course, the market is very forward-looking, and this could be trouble. Secondly, though, they do use their scale and their size to basically bully everybody else out of the equation. For example, so say, for example, they're not paying the highest for the advanced memory, then let's just say another customer who doesn't have the same buying power. What Apple will do is they'll bully the supplier. They'll be like, look, how much is, person A paying you? Oh, he's paying you, let's just say 1,000 per 100 units. I'll pay you 2,000 per 100 units, but you give me everything you have. So they do two things there. One, they use their hoard of cash to outduel their competitors. And number two, they're buying supply and taking it off the market and pushing costs up higher for their competitors. So that's how Apple has kind of operated lately. And then there was another thing, do they hedge like airlines? My question was here initially when I started doing the research was, does Apple hedge its component parts in a similar way that airlines do with jet fuel? The answer that I got essentially was yes and no. They don't do it through futures contracts like the airlines do with the oil contracts and the jet fuel contracts that go in the future, which secure a certain price, but they do it through these LTAs and buying power using their hoard of cash. So for the moment, I'm not too concerned, but I am concerned for the 18 rollout as well as the new devices that could be coming online for launch in September. That's where my concern comes in. Mostly, Joey, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important factor as well, too. Sharif, memory accounts for 9% of iPhone costs and 15% of iPad and computer costs. So I think that's a major component. It's nothing substantial. Also, the fact that it can run about a 1.4% impact onto their margins. But I know we've seen what Apple's been doing. They're coming out with that cheaper laptop, $600 essentially. So I think they're going to be able to combat this as well, too.
You are not fully right there. There was a report recently where they agreed to pay Samsung 100% price increase in DRAM. That's not the point, brother, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about them not paying higher prices. What I'm saying to you is, what are other competitors paying relative to what Apple is paying? It's always a relative analysis. It's not in a vacuum nor absolute. So my point was, if the market price is X, Apple will be paying a little bit lower. Doesn't mean that they're not going to pay higher prices. I didn't mean it to make it sound that way. It's always a comparator about what your competitors are paying, how their margins are getting eaten into versus what you're paying and the effect on your margins. I think that that's kind of the point I was trying to make. And yeah, what do we got next, Sia?
We're talking about oil next. So crude oil, as we know, surged sharply today with the WTI has jumped around 12% to 102.28 per barrel. And this move is following a historic 35% rally in oil as of last week. But as we know it, supply concerns are intensifying as the Middle Eastern producers are cutting production, partly due to risks around the Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of global oil consumption. And Iraq's production has collapsed roughly by 70%, and it has dropped to 1.3 million barrels per day from about 4.3 million barrels per day. Kuwait has also announced a precautionary production cut, whereas the UAE has said that it's carefully managing offshore production levels. Tanker traffic has also slowed dramatically because shipping companies are avoiding the strait due to potential war threats and Iranian attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump has also said that the short-term higher oil prices are acceptable given the geopolitical objective. However, the U.S. officials have indicated efforts, that they're underway to restore safe shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, this is really interesting because it's not just about the supply channels now being blocked. We're actually talking about supply itself getting cut. And we're seeing it from Iraq. We're seeing partially from Kuwait. And now the UAE says that they may be looking at it as well. And that, I think, is where we're going to get really into trouble, because we've been talking about the different channels that the Gulf countries can funnel some of the supply. Obviously, it's not the full 20% of world oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz on a daily basis that can be kind of diverted through the west to east pipeline through Saudi Arabia and some others. Now you're hearing that Iraq Production has collapsed about 70% of what its daily output is, dropping to 1.3 million barrels per day. Kuwait announced precautionary production cuts. The UAE said it's carefully managing offshore production levels. And so this is kind of, I feel, where, you know, the rubber hits the road. You could make the argument we could find different shipping channels for some of the for the oil, but if you're not producing the oil, it doesn't matter what channels are open, Joey. And you know, quite frankly, we've seen the expansion of the war to now hit some of these facilities, whether it's by Israel hitting some of the Iranian facilities and it raining oil rain, or the Iranians hitting the Gulf countries vis-a-vis drones and causing all sorts of production havoc. It's happened in both ways. It sucks. It sucks altogether, but this is the situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and I mean, Donald Trump also not eliminating the fact that they might seize some oil as well, too, which would definitely have to include a ground invasion, which would not be good, but he's not ruling it out for sure. But what I found something extremely interesting, considering we're hitting around $95 a barrel. Hyperliquid in exchange here is saying that there's now approximately a 25% chance that you might see $150 a barrel. So that would just skyrocket. That
would be horrible.
That would skyrocket the prices.
Absolutely,
of gas.
No question about it. Yeah. That would start creating demand destruction. I think demand destruction is already going to start happening at around $1.50.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, it's going to be, obviously there's some people that have no choice, but it's going to be like the situations where you do have a choice. Do you drive up to cottage country this week? Do you really make it up to Collingwood, you know? Like, that's kind of what I'm saying there. People are going to start really looking at some of their choices if the price keeps going up and up and up. All right, Sia, what do we got next?
Talk about airlines next. So as we know it, airlines have declined heavily today. Delta Airlines, DAL, is down by 3%, followed by other carriers also slipping today. United Airlines, UAL, AAL, JBLU, and LUV dropping around roughly 2 to 3%. This is highly sensitive because jet fuel represents one of the largest operating costs for airlines, and it's very relevant and connected to the previous story that we were just discussing. The decline in airline stocks has followed the massive surge in crude oil prices, and airlines may also face airspace restriction and route changes. As we know, we are still seeing that today due to geopolitical tensions in the Middle East.
All right, and what concerns me even more is that, yeah, sure, the prices are up. We know, though, that a lot of these airlines are hedging their bets via futures contracts. So at least in the short term, they are protected. What they're not protected from, though, is rerouting. And rerouting usually means more miles in the air. More miles in the air means more jet fuel spent. So even though you may not be paying immediately higher jet fuel costs, because again, we've been talking about their hedging, what they're not going to be able to do is divert around or to fly through that area. And we know how important of an area the Middle East is as a global kind of hub between East and West, right? So I think that poses a lot of problems, not just to the Emirati Airlines and these others, but to everybody who flies through there, Joe.
Yeah, and I think you'll see a ripple effect as well too, Sharif, because obviously with the lack of supply in oil, you're going to see those prices start being affected over here as well too, with the increase of jet fuel and just oil in general. But what is that going to do for margins? We already know that they're pretty much running on lower margin. So what are they going to do? They're going to pass that price on to the consumer, just rapidly increasing the price of airfare. So it's not a good look here right now, especially in the airlines.
All right, Sia.
We're talking next about Hims and Hers. It's surged. I'm sorry, one second. The dealers follow Novo Nordisk's crackdown on compounded GLP-1 versions. And as part of the agreement, Hims and Hers will be acquiring Zava, which is a digital health platform in Europe. They have reported Hims and Hers have reported a Q4 revenue of $617.8 million, which is slightly below the $619.2 million analyst estimate. However, the company has posted an EPS of 0.08 cents, beating beating the expectations of 0.03 per share. Management has also issued a 2026 revenue guidance between 3.5 to 3.7 billion compared to the estimate of $2.9 billion, and shares have gained about 54% over the past year, and the stock was recently traded above its 20-day SMA but below the 100-day, which is suggesting a certain mixed short-term trend here. And yeah, that's about it. What do you have to say about this?
All right, so one thing that is implied, obviously, in that is that this is not just a deal between the two companies, it is, but there's more included. It's the ending of basically a legal feud. So this effectively ends the patent infringement lawsuit that Novo had brought in against Hims and Hers, right? Because they were doing the compounding of the drug locally at these pharmacies, and then they were selling these compounded non-factory made drugs, of course, to customers. So that ends the litigation there. So that's good legal overhang removed from Hims. It's not just a partnership, but it's also the ending of mass compounding. So what does that mean? That means Hims and Hers is no longer selling you a product that they put together with good margins. Because I'll just digress for a second here. There's two parts of the pharmacy business that are left that are still very high margin. One is methadone for opioid addiction, and the price of administering, some of the methadone and naloxone, and we're not going all to that. That's still a high margin business, and then the compounding is still a high margin business. So that's where a lot of pharmacies want to concentrate on, those two. So what is going to happen now with Hims and Hers is they're not going to be selling you a compounded product. They're going to take Novo's product and act as a wholesale middleman and sell it to you. What does that do to margins? It clips margins. So you can't have the same outlook for maybe for revenue, but not certainly for earnings as you had before, unless something fundamentally changes. So two things. One, this deal removes legal overhang. It's not just a deal between two companies. It's the ending of a patent infringement lawsuit. And two, it's the ending of Hims and Hers acting as the compounder, and now they're just a wholesaler. Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a smart play by Novo Nordisk to just kind of end that, considering they're still in battle with other companies that are compounding the drug as well. What is apparently doing really well, Shreve, is the oral pill with over 600,000 subscriptions. But we talk about the high margins. This price, Ozempic and Wegovy were going for $1,000 a month, now $300. So just imagine what that does to a margin. Yeah, like it's really hard to sustain that. And then also you have competition in larger drug makers like Eli Lilly as well too. So I think it's a strategic play as well as much as it is from a business standpoint. I think that's the direction that they want to head towards. All right, we got a super chat here from our boy Adam James abroad. We know you're abroad, man. You can take that out of the name there, brother. No, I'm obviously joking. Yo, Wagwan. I'm not gonna say the next word. And Rude Boy. Bless up. Yeah. So what's up, brother? I hope you're having a good time. Who knows where this guy is now, but it's definitely somewhere warm.
Bro, Arsenal almost lost to a second division team.
The game that you were telling me about last week?
Oh my God.
What was the score?
It was 2-1. It was 2-1 us, right?
Man.
But oh my goodness. Yeah, well, they keep playing like a whole bunch of subs. Anyway, it's not a good look lately for us. We're still first, and we got 7 points in the clear, but it's like we're putting in lower highs. You can just see it. If I had to chart Arsenal on a graph, we're putting in lower highs. And, maybe we got a flat bottom somewhere. Whoa. But that might
break. Oh, no.
Yeah, we had to hit that. Yeah, anyway. Tough luck, but it sucks to suck. What is that? Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Sia, I heard we're talking a little coin.
Oh, yes, we are. So Bitcoin had started the week with sharp volatility, but it's trading above 67,400 after rebounding from the losses triggered by the spike in global oil prices. But Bitcoin has climbed above $68,000 during the European trading, recovering from 65,633, which has been its lowest level in roughly a week. But the pullback has come from the oil surging and global markets that are reacting to escalating global geopolitical tensions. Also, other coins, ETH has risen 1.9% to about 1,973. It also reached nearly 1,981 during the session. Solana SOL also gained 1.5% to 82.77. There is macro volatility, but there is also resilience here.
There is resilience because we're not at 30,000 yet. So that's kind of the good news. I mean, I don't know. Let's just be honest about it. Joseph and I and Obi and I, we've talked about this multiple times where if you look at the historical pullbacks, again, let's just go for you know what and giggles, right? Let's take that, what was it, November? It was November 2021, right? The high there was, let's just put it right on the dot, 68,967. 68,960. Let's just go 69 because it's easier and I like that number. And then we dropped all the way down, guys, to 14 and change. That is a 78% retracement at the beginning of this decade, from 21 to 22. So I don't think it was beyond the realm of possibility to say that we were going to see that again. And if we do that again, let's do it live right now. Let's take the high, 126 and change, Joey. Let's pull it all the way down. Let's just go 78. We won't even go 80. We'll go 78. That takes us to 27,000. So the fact that we're hanging out here is good news. It's not surprising because we did hang out here for a long time. Look how long we consolidated in this 50 to 75,000 range. Let's go with that range from early March 2024 till the breakout in November 2024. So better part of a year, we were kind of consolidating there. It's only been a few weeks here. I don't know how you feel about this. This article that I wrote this morning says analysts are noting that the crypto market structure has evolved significantly over the past year or two compared with prior cycles, and they're trying to credit institutional participation. They're saying ETF inflows and institutional exposure keeps a bit of a bottom. We've heard that story before.
Yeah.
Greater derivative market depth. We've heard that before. IBIT contracts obviously have a way of creating the put and call walls. You've been talking about that. And integration with the broader macro markets. I don't know how really integrated they are other than being with having ETF inflows. I mean, we haven't seen pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and hedge funds pick this up en masse. We've seen institutional buying.
We've heard the talks about
We've heard the talks.
Like about a percentage.
But it still hasn't
happened. But what I find interesting, Sharif, is that, hey, this is the greatest, IBIT was the greatest ETF launch of all time.
It was.
But then you also, on the other side of the coin, have these mass liquidations, some of the largest since the GFC, right? So it's like you're kind of stuck in this weird parallel of the fact it's like, hey, do we like this thing or do we not? But the one thing that Bitcoin has going for it, because we can't go back and look at any form of fundamentals on this underlying asset, but what we can say is that we know that supply is going to dwindle every 4 years and so on. The reward for mining your Bitcoin is essentially going to be cut in half each and every time, every 4 years, obviously that is. So if we're basing it off anything, it's just that the fact that there has to be some form of demand in the underlying asset, but I don't think there is right now. You have to wait for that new wave of participants. I feel like it's Michael Saylor and a little bit of retail just essentially grabbing this stuff. And he could be the smartest player out right now, but I think that with the volatility, we have seen it cool down a little bit, but you're still experiencing a 40+% pullback, right? 60%. So I mean, it's not the best look, and I think you need to wait for that new wave of investors to really get involved. And I think it was Katina Man saying it, people just get really excited about that new shiny thing. Bitcoin is not that right now, but if it starts to climb a little bit higher, then you're going to get the reality of the FOMO of participants stepping in, and then that's when you can get some institutional engagement as well.
I have a question for you. Remember you and I think to be fair, a lot of us had the bias that most of the crypto millionaires have been minted.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they have. Yeah, they have been.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Unless you have a substantial amounts of capital, like Michael Saylor.
Well, of course.
The retail.
If you're going to DCA,
the retail, the minting of the retail millionaire is essentially probably gone.
So, with that in mind, when do you think we started saying that? When it was like hitting 80, 90, 100.
I think,
right?
Maybe even a little bit lower than that,
Even a little bit lower?
Because if the early investor, the early retail guy who's grabbing this thing for dollars, essentially, right? You hit that $20,000 mark, you're essentially, or $1,000 on it, you've already essentially made yourself
So
one.
the point I'm trying to get to is, we saw a retracement into 14,000-ish. Let's just go with 15 because it was 14 and change, right? In 22. We saw the base form pretty well there. It was mostly defended 20-ish, but there were times it dropped below. So now let's just go with the bias that this thing drops into the high 20s, low 30s. Do you still feel that the majority of the crypto millionaires have been minted at 27,000, at 35,000? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do, because
you do?
I think the exponential growth is in the lower digits, right? Like from when it's low, like when it's in the double or triple digits.
Right.
But once you get into that 20,000, think about how many you have to buy in order for it to, and then the compound after that in order for you to actually become a millionaire.
So so just to summarize, I think our bias is that the majority of the crypto millionaires were minted, I want to say 17, 16, 15, not 18, because 18 I think it hit 20 and change, right? Something like that. Yeah. Okay.
It's really like it's the individuals who were involved just shortly after the white paper, who there wasn't necessarily such a direct way to get the cryptocurrency because it was significantly harder back in the day, right?
Sure.
Like you had to do a bunch of
cold
weird
wallets
stuff.
and stuff. Yeah, I remember my buddy doing it in 18.
You had to do a lot of sketchy stuff that the internet and the retail investor wasn't necessarily familiar with, opposed to now a click of a button. It's so much more accessible, right? A flick of the wrist.
Flick of the wrist. Katina, man, you got the rollie on today? No, he's got the Apple Watch on. All right, minted.
I sold it to buy Bitcoin.
Katina, man, no, he's lying. I just saw it. Minted means, I forget the person, fearless creation. Minted means, made. Like, so how many Bitcoin millionaires do you think Bitcoin millionaires can still manifest at these price levels, or the price levels Joey and I were talking about? That's kind of what I was asking. That's what I meant by minted, Minting something means making, creating.
Like it makes it so much more difficult when you're at 100,000. So say you had the capital to buy one Bitcoin at 100. Now you need it to 10x, opposed to it going from $1 to $10, right? It makes things, and then you have the compound from $10 to $100, which you're at almost 1,000%, or whatever it may be, 100% at that point. So 1,000%.
All right, Sia, what do we got next?
We're talking about MU not doing the best here. Because Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix have reportedly secured the roles as exclusive suppliers for 6th generation of HBM4 memory for NVIDIA's next generation Vera Rubin AI accelerator. And this is giving the two memory giants in Korea a major advantage in the race to supply high bandwidth memory for the next generation AI chips. But MU was notably left out of the initial supply chain for NVIDIA's upcoming AI platform. So this explosive growth in AI infrastructure is reshaping the memory market, particularly for the HBM, which is a high bandwidth memory. And this demand has created tight supply conditions and a strong pricing power for the HBM producers in particular. Samsung has already started the mass production of HBM4 chips, and there are certain industry reports that are suggesting that these chips pricing could reach around $700 per unit, which is roughly 20 to 30% higher than the actual production price than prior generation HBM, And Micron, by contrast, is reportedly struggling to meet some of NVIDIA's strict technical requirements here. And analyst commentary also just about Micron is maintained at buy just by Citigroup, and that's all.
Thank you very much, Sia. So here's what my understanding is as to why NVIDIA made the selection for SK and Samsung as opposed to choosing the American alternative. The only vertically integrated manufacturer of RAM is Micron. My understanding is customization and speed barriers. So apparently NVIDIA set performance requirements at about 10 to 11 gigabytes, significantly higher than the standard. Samsung was the first to successfully pass the litany of NVIDIA's tests that they put their suppliers to before they signed the contract. SK Hynix is still optimizing, from my my understanding, at 11 gigabytes, and Micron either can't reach those levels consistently or can't reach them at all. And then there's also the one-stop shop advantage sort of thing. Samsung offers the best kind of turnkey RAM. Basically from the jump, Samsung can manufacture granules, the basic logic dies, and the final packaging obviously is done in-house. And capacity and volume. Apparently Samsung is basically able to produce a lot more. And from my understanding as well, SK Hynix has sold their entire inventory to Nvidia, so they're looking for another large supplier. And I'm assuming that the assumption by Nvidia was that Micron wouldn't be able to get it done. So that's kind of the look for me. I don't think it's a good look for an American company, with all the reshoring push and the pressure that President Trump has put on some of these tech companies to buy American, to go and do that unless they really need to buy South Korean. In this case, it feels like it was, Joey. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I look left, right, and center here, and it's essentially the price target increasing here on some of these HBM, DRAM names, and it doesn't going to stop. It's still maintaining positive buy, increase of price target left, right, and center. And I think it's important to note that a lot of these companies are starting to implement the increase in cost within the manufacturing of whatever they may be, computers and phones as well too. So I think that this sector is definitely going to be on a little bit of a run for the foreseeable future until you, as you mentioned before, until you kind of have that gluttony of it, but there's just like, hey, there's too much of it going on that we don't necessarily need it anymore.
All right, Adam James dropping 2 in the chat. If AGA breaks through here, it's going to $6 plus. Let's take a quick look at AGH before we send it back to Sia. I'm looking for a move above $6 for ANTX, by the way. Packing the patience on that. AGH, let's flip to the 5. Above $6. So $6, not that far away. And it's a key level of resistance too, because look at that 925. That's the implied balance high, and it rejected that. It's breaking the downtrend line though. So good call by you, Adam, on that. Camp is breaking out into the high of the day. CAMP, it's up 71.5. Be on the lookout, 7.25 high. But this is the look on AGH. Breaking trend, not a bad look, Adam. This one could see 6 1/5. There goes Camp into 743. CAMP is breaking out, guys. See ya.
So Oracle and OpenAI, or the ORCL and OpenAI, are reportedly scaling back on expansion plans at their AI data center project in Albion in Texas. The partners are considering expanding the facility beyond its current footprint, but the additional expansion here plans are currently now off the table. But the site currently spans about 1,100 acres and includes 8 data center buildings. The Abilene facility also represents the first deployment of the Stargate project, a partnership which involves OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and the U.S. government, and it's aimed at building massive AI computing capacity. But despite abandoning the local expansion plan, Oracle and OpenAI are still moving forward with the broader capacity targets that are tied to this Stargate project.
Yeah, very interesting look here. It looks like, the original 8 data center buildings in Abilene remain on schedule, no changes to the initial development time. This is all part of course, Stargate. So, I think the companies also announced plans last year to build an additional 5 U.S. data centers, with Oracle and OpenAI responsible for 3 of them. This is under the Stargate initiative. It's interesting. It's definitely eye-opening, especially with, the, let's just say, controversy surrounding AI data center spend, specifically with OpenAI really kind of being past its prime. Any cancellation of any projects, I think, is going to be viewed more suspiciously, that, things may be coming to a head. I personally don't want to use OpenAI as the litmus test. I think that there are definitely others who are not only just passing OpenAI, but who also have deep pockets. It's not just this company that has them, even though they are well-financed, obviously, and they have first-mover advantage. But
OpenAI.
Yeah, OpenAI.
Yeah, I was going to say the total opposite for Oracle, though, because we've seen before they have the mass layoffs,
Yeah.
right? They're not going through with the expansion. So, like, that to me is like, oh, who's a little cash grab? And we just did an example of a company like Nscale, Scale, who's just did a funding round for $2 billion, looking to build data centers in Norway. So we were talking about Oracle being the potential bubble to the AI, but there is other larger entities that have the ability to go through these funding rounds and meet their obligations, essentially.
No question about it. No question about it. Daryl, what's your take on this?
Okay, so I mean, it's Oracle. I have a take. I know I'm boring at this point. Everyone knows I'm going to talk about Oracle. And here's the thing, like, I'm not even here to necessarily talk trash about Oracle. I've always said my opinion with Oracle is until they show me differently, I do, find things to be a little bit questionable here about their business. And even then, I pulled up these headlines for a reason. But as I pulled them up, I see, hey, Deutsche Bank lowering its price target on Oracle to, I cannot believe this is $300, but whatever. Barclays also lowering its price target on Oracle. Now, some of this could be ahead of earnings tomorrow after the bell, but still, kind of a dicey look. And I want to talk about the headline progression here because it is worth noting. I don't think it's mentioned in the note here, but we had a couple different outlets and then actually Oracle themselves all denying this report or clarifying this report might be a better word. So here was the initial report from Bloomberg saying they were ending their expansion plans. A couple minutes after that, CNBC comes out and they say, hey, any existing plans for Oracle's data center project with OpenAI remain on track. Now, you're going to get an Adara news tip here. Anytime I hear anything like existing or remains on track, I immediately go, but what was the existing plan? Because if you don't provide any kind of caveat, I don't really know what you're talking about. So then CNBC basically clarified, yeah, they were not denying the Bloomberg report. They were just saying, hey, whatever plans there were existing, they are still existing. Did not really comment on the expansion, but then we got this clarification from Reuters about an hour after that. So yes, guys, that's like 3 headlines in an hour and a half period. This Reuters one came out after the bell on Friday. They're basically saying, hey, the original deal's moving forward. They're still going to get buildings 1 to 8. So again, all of these outlets like kind of denying the expansion without out and out denying the expansion, which is interesting. However, Oracle, they did out and out deny that they were canceling this expansion. Oracle said that's not happening. But again, any clarifying comments they made we're in line with these other reports. So long story short, I am of the opinion that these outlets and Oracle themselves are basically kind of addressing without actually addressing it. Hey, yeah, this expansion isn't really happening, but we have to put in a brave face ahead of earnings. Now, I also think it's interesting. Oracle waited a good 48 hours before responding to these allegations, which is kind of an odd move if you have a plan and if the allegations are not true. Now, before we send you back to Sharif and Joe, because I know I've been yapping about my favorite subject here, let's talk about ORCL and what they did last quarter, because they're going to be reporting Q3 2026 tomorrow. As of right now, they're not really on track to meet that cloud infrastructure guidance that was so lofty of theirs. But I really want to talk about the growth in cloud. So cloud revenue growth last quarter, 34% year over year. Their total revenue growth was 14% year over year. Now, their next largest segment growth was 7%. So that's almost a fifth of their cloud growth. So what that means, guys, is basically the only reason this company is growing revenue at all, or at least last quarter, is because of cloud. So if they don't see that consistent cloud growth, and again, we're seeing some signs of cloud weakness in Oracle, my crystal ball, my Oracle is telling me we might have another rough quarter.
Thank you very much, Adara. All right, Sia, what do we got next?
Acquiring BioCare Medical for $950 million here. It's announced a definitive agreement to acquire BioCare Medical for $950 million in cash. BioCare specializes in antibodies and diagnostic reagents used in pathology labs. So BioCare has developed more than 300 specialized antibodies, and the company has produced double-digit revenue and profit growth since 2021, generated more than $90 million in revenue in the year 2025 alone. Management is expecting the transaction to be gradual to Agilent's revenue growth, margins, and non-instrument revenue mix in the first year.
And that's what I like about it. Management expects the transaction to be immediately accretive to revenue growth. It's going to help with margins, if you believe the reports, as well as the revenue mix. So that helps with concentration risk. Also, the article states that kind of by integrating BioCare's antibody portfolio, which is kind of what they have, with the existing diagnostic capabilities of Allegiant, that kind of aims to deepen the presence that they have in pathology workflows, as well as clinical research applications. A lot of stuff that's way above my pay grade, but definitely things that you feel definitely the market may reward.
All cash deal too. Makes it a little bit more smooth. Essentially expected to close by no later than the fiscal fourth quarter of 2026. 2026, so not too long. The latter half of the year, you can't complain about that.
All right, what do we got next? See ya.
We're talking about Live Nation. Live Nation is very close to settling a federal antitrust lawsuit that was brought by the US DOJ, which was filed in May of 2024, which was sought to break up Live Nation and force the sale of its Ticketmaster unit. So it had been alleged that the company used its dominant position to inflate ticket prices and harm artists. The case intensified the scrutiny of Live Nation's 2010 acquisition of Ticketmaster, and calls for regulatory action are growing louder after the Taylor Swift 2023 Eras Tour ticket sales, where fans were facing a long time for online wait times and a lot higher ticket prices.
I don't want to blame Live Nation for all the ticket mishaps that you have, but have you looked at what the World Cup game here, the first one with Canada, the BMO?
I don't want to know.
It's 6,500
just to get in the door.
That's the actual price. That's not secondary market.
Yeah.
So there's obviously like this, you know, inflationary push for these event experiences, and I don't think it's really Live Nation's fault. Right? I don't think it's Ticketmaster's fault. I think that basically the market is becoming super exuberant and people are making a business out of this, right?
Yeah.
They're buying them at face value, which is super cheap, and they're going to off the market. I think that that's really where you need to address it, the off-market sales.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Secondary
because
market.
Didn't in the UK, didn't they say, hey, we can't sell tickets anymore above face value?
I don't know, how does that work though? So like, can't you just use a VPN and then,
it's not even that, but couldn't you just purchase the tickets on your own and then go on, say, Marketplace or do
and
something
anywhere else, anywhere else and do
right?
it. Well, knowing what they do in the UK to you, if you mess around online, Joe, you may not want to do that. You get a knock at the door.
Immediately at the door, right?
Immediately at the door.
But again, like you mentioned, it's more or less the third party, just the secondary market that is really causing the issues.
Exactly.
People, like purchasing the tickets and then making a post is like, hey, goes to high or best OBO, right? Or best offer.
Exactly, OBO. It says here, regulators argue that Live Nation's control of the venues, the promotion, and the ticketing is creating barriers for competitors and limiting pricing transparency for consumers. Okay, so explain the FIFA problem. You see what I'm saying? Like, where the hell is that come into play here? I think it's a general, you know, market demand thing that's really causing the anomaly here.
Yeah,
I don't think it's just one.
But do you feel it's an anomaly? I feel like this is going to be a continuous thing until you run into some form. Like, I mean, we're talking about a strapped consumer. Like, well, people are paying $6,500.
Clearly, they're still paying.
Right?
Clearly, they're still paying. I was looking at Tame Impala to see what I could get for the tickets off market, and it's like triple what I paid for them, man.
Exactly, man.
Triple what I paid.
And Obi made a good point too. It's just algos just getting in the queue and then just buying as many as they possibly can right out of the gate, and then that's how you have something that can. It's a high margin business. I told you what happened to my buddy in the Jays game, right? Like he got. There's just so many ways around this year now. So.
All right, we are a couple of minutes over time, so we gave back the boys what they gave us in the morning. And we're gonna go up to Adara. She's got news at the big desk.
Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting look here because we were just talking about Oracle and OpenAI here, but the information reporting about half an hour ago, and I'm just seeing this circulate now, the reason OpenAI decided not to expand the Abilene site with Oracle is because they want separate Nvidia Vera Rubin facilities. Oracle walked away, Nvidia put down a deposit. They're in talks to basically place this with other big tech tenants like Meta. We heard something to this effect on Friday, but the information reporting some more details. Again, this isn't breaking, but I think worth noting because I'm just seeing this headline kind of circulate now on social media. And because we just discussed ORCL and OpenAI, Oracle, of course, is going to remain on heightened watch as well ahead of that earnings report tomorrow. But now we're going to head to the afternoon show. It's Obi, it's Sean, and it's trading.